I had no consequences. So I'll just be quick to punch you or go piss right in your cell. Because in order for a facility to run smoothly, you can't be by the book. A lot of inmates were getting airlifted out, but this is where my downfall came. I applied and literally I got the job like on the spot. Like you can start like 3 days later. It's fast. It's
Wow.
fast.
That's insane.
Yeah, and the background check was like basically nothing. If you have a heartbeat and you're okay, you're talking and you have a heartbeat, Department of Corrections will take you for sure.
Where did you end up? Like how long before you actually went in? Was there any training at all? Like, or is it on the job training?
So this is how Florida does it. I don't know about the other states. I know that federal doesn't do this. So when you get hired, literally, they put you onto a shift. So I started working night shift on this one shift. So 7 at night.
This is on the job training.
It's unbelievable. But like, they don't even give you anything to protect yourself. You don't even know any policy. They don't even give you a radio. You just have what they call a panic button.
Right.
Hitting the deuces.
Yeah, the deuces.
And if that even works, because it's supposed to pick up to the closest alarm of the dorm or if you're like in medical or something.
Right. And all the guards come supposed to come immediately to run to
So
help you.
Right.
Do you ever know policy, or you just hang out? You're just on the job training until you're eventually on your own.
Right. So you stay there. It could be a month. It could be up to 6 months before they send you to the academy.
Oh. Okay.
So this whole time you're working, they'll tell you, "Oh, go do body searches. You know, you have to do pat down, or go do a cell search." It's like,
what am I looking for? I don't even know.
You don't even know what you're doing. I got lucky because I got assigned to one of the sergeants that was in charge of the gang unit. And the gang unit is called STG, Security Threat Group. That's basically a gang unit.
Okay.
And he liked me. And he was letting me do a lot of things that a TEA, which is as soon as you get hired, you're not a certified officer, so they call it a TEA. The inmates will call you a new cock.
Right.
But the staff will call you a TEA. And a TEA is not even supposed to be on his own. It's supposed to be strictly in the dorm, just pressing buttons, letting people in. Or if you do cell searches and stuff, you're supposed to be with a certified officer. You're supposed to.
Right.
Because you don't have handcuffs, you don't have pepper spray, you don't even have a radio.
Okay.
But I got lucky and I got to roll with one of the sergeants that was in charge of the whole gang unit. And at the time, it was only him and a captain. And that captain worked day shift. So the captain would do all the STG things in the daytime, and he was in charge of it at night. You know, whatever the captain would tell him to do, he would have to do and go talk to a certain inmate or go lock an inmate up or something. So back then I was, working out a lot. I was a lot bigger than what I am now. So he was a smaller guy. And he had a respect from the inmates, but I also noticed that he was too cool, like trying to be your friend. And there's nothing wrong with being friends and friendly and make a joke here and there.
Right.
But you're not going to let them dictate to you what they're going to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you dictate to what they're going to do. You're in charge here. And it's not a power thing. It's just a respect thing. I have the badge. You don't. I work with you. I'll compromise with you. But you're not going to ever tell me what to do. Yeah.
You're not going to say, no, I'm not doing that. I'm going to go do this over here. And says, no.
Right. And he would go for it because part of STG is keeping the peace too. It's identifying the gangs, making sure, they don't cross paths with the other gangs, stop contraband, either drugs or cell phones or whatever the contraband is at that time. Right.
Okay.
So it is part of keeping the peace. Right. But you're too friendly. They just walk all over you.
Right.
So I learned a lot from him, but I also dissected what I didn't like I seen him do. And I never told him this.
Yeah.
But I'm just watching because from that moment when I worked with him and he was letting me do things that I'm not even supposed to do, I knew I wanted to do that. And I wasn't going to stop. That's what I wanted to do inside of working in the prison. So I got to experience and get my name out there by doing a lot of things. Like he would even let me fight some inmates because they would disrespect me to him.
Right.
Like I looked at it as a racial thing, right? Because they said cracker.
Right.
I'm from New York. Like we don't even use the word cracker like that unless you're trying to insult someone.
Oh,
You know,
I was gonna
but and here in Florida they say cracker. That's
cracker all
a
the time. Yeah, it's not really an insult here.
So then I would say something to him, and he would say something back, and next thing you know, now we have an issue, and he wouldn't like. He would be so nervous. He'd be like, and then I'll be like, no, this is what's gonna happen, and we would settle our problems. But
It's insane, bro.
it is insane.
Yeah.
But it got me the respect from the inmates too. And I'm not sitting here and say, oh, I beat everyone's ass.
Yeah.
No, not at all. I didn't care if you got off on me or if I got off on you. It was a respect thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's what you definitely really honestly you realize this in high school. Like it's more about being willing to fight than it is actually winning the fight. Of course, you want to win the fight. Nobody wants to get their ass beat.
Right.
But it's so much worse if you just don't fight. You'd rather fight and lose than to not fight at all. Then it's much worse. Then everybody disrespects you.
And that goes for officers too, because now officers they talk reckless sometimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when an inmate talks reckless back, you can't be quick to lock him up and put him in the shoe because you open that door to disrespect him. He didn't disrespect you first in that situation, and now everyone's going to disrespect you. Now, good luck trying to accomplish what you're trying to accomplish as a correction officer. It's not going to happen when you don't have the respect.
Right.
And I didn't go the best route, obviously, which landed me in federal prison as an inmate myself. I could have went about it a different way, but I still gained the respect in a way.
Right.
And that's we're men at the end of the day. You're an inmate, I'm an officer, but you're still a man at the end of the day.
Right.
I have a job to do. It's your job to do what you do and get away with it, and it's my job to catch you. And when I catch you, there's no hard feelings. And if you get away with it for a long time, there's no hard feelings. It's the nature of the beast.
So what happened when did you end up going? You go to the academy, do you go to the academy?
Yeah, 3 months later, I go to the academy.
Okay.
But by that time, I'm already being recruited onto STG from the captain, which is unheard of. I'm not trying to toot my horn here, but you need to have years before you can get on it because it's a very small unit, right? And being with that sergeant and doing what I was doing with the gang stuff, a lot of officers, it's like gossip. It's like high school. Prison is like gossip. The inmates and officers, everyone talks. So I was being recruited for the SRT team, which is basically SWAT. It's like emergency service, if inmates riot or anything like that.
Yeah, cell extraction, that sort of thing, right?
They each shift has their own cell extraction team.
Okay.
But now, if there's a riot where the cell extraction team can't handle it, they'll call in. Or if they have a kite that came in that an inmate's trying to escape, or there's going to be a gang fight, or there's going to be a riot, or whatever that has to do with that's not in the means of the staff that's there that day or that shift, they'll call us.
Okay.
So they give you a state-issued phone. You always have to have that phone on you. You can't live more than 30 miles away. If you go away, you have to get approval from your commander that you're going away because they need to know if they're a man down. So I was being recruited before I was even in the academy. So once I went into the academy, all these guys, and even the warden, the colonel, we call it white shirts,
right?
Brass, warden will come, all talk to me. They came and watched me get pepper sprayed. They made it worse because they made me go last. So the whole time in the academy, you have to, run and do exercises, open up your pores.
Right.
And then usually they just go a little right here, and then you have to open your eyes. And then you have to do hit the bag. Then you have to run to the next bag, elbow it, then knee it.
After being pepper sprayed?
Right. And then you have to take one of the officers they have as a dummy, and he has to resist a little bit, and you have to throw him on the floor and put the handcuffs on him while you're using the radio to the control room to let you know, back up, I need backup.
Right.
They try to make it stressful. Yeah. It's really a joke, but you have to make it stressful. But since I had all these guys in higher spots that all came for my spray day, they made it worse. I was sweating. I was exhausted from running because there's like 30 kids in a class. So the whole time they're making me run, do push-ups, burpees. They're working me out. They were like, "Oh, you want to be a part of SRT? We're gonna make you work for it." And then they were using the MK9, MK4. It's the smaller can of pepper spray,
Okay.
right? But they used the MK9 on me, and that's what only sergeants have. And it's like they call it Black Jesus.
Right.
'Cause
Why?
because you're gonna see black and you're gonna be crying for Jesus. That's how
Okay.
bad it is. It's like it's bad. They call it Black Jesus. So you're supposed to have your eyes closed, but they were messing with me, and they were like, "Yo," and I opened up my eyes, and they sprayed me bad, and then they have like these like padded like bats, and they were all just like beating the shit out of me while I had to do all these like little obstacles.
Right.
But it was fun. It was a funny experience, but it was definitely a little rough.
So, I mean, did you end up on that?
Yeah, right away. As soon as I passed the academy, which
Right.
is like 3 months, approximately 3 months, and you pass the state certification test, because you have to pass the test for the academy, and then you got to pass a state board that
Okay.
has nothing to do with the prison. It has to do with FDLE, Florida Department of Law Enforcement.
Okay.
Then you're officially a certified officer. So
How much? What does a officer make the first year? And this seems like a lot of fucking shit and a dangerous
it is
job.
It is dangerous. And
So, what do they make?
nothing.
Right.
34,000 maybe.
I was gonna say, I know that I think federal the first year, like the feds, they're like 35 or 38,000. It's like it's very little money.
But it goes up more in the feds.
Right.
Like a captain here in Florida makes maybe 50,000.
Okay.
You don't make
No.
anything.
Okay.
Really, if you do it, it's to be it's a stepping stone to go to maybe county where
Yeah.
you make more money, or
Right.
a police department, maybe FBI or something.
Yeah.
You-
It's law enforcement. It's an entry. It's a entry bar into law enforcement.
It's an entry. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you stay there, there's a lot of people that stay there and they don't even want to promote up to sergeant, lieutenant.
Right.
And it's only a 7% increase. So if you're an officer and you want to be a sergeant, it's only 7% from
Right.
that salary. So
But
it's,
it is a state job that you can retire from in 20 years. You know what I'm saying? So it's not like there's not a pension that comes with it.
correct. But
Okay.
I don't know how much that pension is. And you have good benefits, but to me, it's not worth wasting your whole career staying in that. It's a toxic environment too.
Yeah.
Toxic from the inmates, and it's toxic from staff too.
Well, I mean, I know guys that they'd go into the military at like 17, right? Because your parents can sign off, right?
Right.
17, go for 20 years, retire, go into law enforcement for 20 years, retire, and then they were working on their third. Now they're in their like 50s, but then they go in and they're working for like the BOP,
Right.
and you're like, well, you're working on your third pension right
Right.
now.
Which is genius.
Yeah, if you can stay that course,
Right. If you can.
That's a few and far in between that can.
Right. I definitely wasn't making it on
Right.
my course. I definitely would have loved to try, but no, it's a job. It depends on it's what you make of it too. But it
Yeah.
is a very toxic. It takes a toll on you.
Right.
It takes a toll on you. It's not just inmates that you have to worry about too. It's the staff is very toxic too.
Yeah.
You don't have like the highest education. People that are working there. You don't. Very rarely will you see someone with a master's or even a bachelor's go work there.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I mean, you could tell, and this was this was the BOP, but they were constantly, like we talked about before, these guys, I mean, guards are fighting in the fucking parking lot, like they're like, I'll meet you out fucking back, I'll meet you in the parking lot as soon as your shift gets
Right.
off, motherfucker, and they go out and they get into fist fights, like guys would come back with, both eyes are blackened,
Right.
or they would be in screaming matches on the rec yard. They would. One guy closes the compound, then they open it back up, then the other one closes the compound, and you're like, what's going on? Then the guys are practically yelling on the radio, like, I said the compound, it's closed. One guy's saying it's open, one guy's saying it's closed. Like, you find out these two guys hate each other. Female guards are fucking one or two of the fucking COs, then they hate each other.
That's where most of the fights come from. It's who's banging who.
Mm.
Right? That's where a lot of the fights come from. Or they're not even banging them yet.
Right.
They just see a new officer's come in and they're trying to claim her.
Right.
And they're fighting like, what are you doing, bro?
Yeah.
What are you doing? One of these inmates is gonna have to bang her before you do anyway, so what does it matter?
I was gonna say, what was the The one thing that happened. Oh, I know what it was. There had to be whatever. I don't know how many guards there even were at the low. I'm thinking the low. I would say there were at least 4 or 5 guards that were clearly on like oxys. Like they were clearly on, like they had an addiction problem, and it was, they're nodding off in the the little their little office, and whatever. It was like, and I don't know, but you got the other inmates go, no, bro, that dude he's got. I mean, trust me, I know I was addicted. They're like, and they would say this, he's fucked up, or she's messed up, and then you find out later they'll send them to detox, like they'll send them to a rehab
for a cover up.
Yeah, and then come back and they start over again.
Yeah, it happens. There was this one officer when I first started. He was actually a sergeant, and he would come drunk.
Oh yeah. I've heard that too. Like I was never close enough, but the guys that would work with them, like at rec, you're working right beside the COs, right? Or if you're in commissary, like you're
right there.
The COs right here with 2 or 3 of them, and they could smell the
alcohol.
Or was it this one? There was a lieutenant, a female lieutenant, who was harassing one of the COs, and it was so bad that at one point she had got pulled over for like a DUI, and she texted him at like 11 o'clock at night or so. So the cop pulls her over, but they're like, look, call somebody to come get you. Like, I'm not going to arrest you.
Right.
We're going to leave your car here, but somebody got to come get you. The guy she was harassing, she texts him at like, 11, 12 o'clock at night. And she tells him, and keep in mind, now you're laying in bed with your wife. If you sleep hot at night, you know how disruptive that can be. Whether you're having trouble falling asleep, you're waking up sweating in the middle of the night, or all of the above. That's where Ghost Bed can help. As the makers of the coolest beds in the world, Ghost Bed is your go-to for cooling mattresses, cooling pillows, and cooling bedding. From their signature Ghost Ice fabric to patented technology that adjusts to your body's temperature, every Ghost Bed mattress is designed with cooling in mind. So whether you want a plusher mattress that cushions your shoulders and hips, or a firm option with exceptional support, your Ghost Bed will keep you cool and comfortable all night long. When you purchase a Ghost Bed mattress, your comfort is guaranteed. You can try out your mattress for 101 nights, risk-free, to make sure it's the right fit for you. Plus, they offer free shipping, and most items are shipped within 24 hours. If you're not sure which Ghost Bed is right for you, check out their mattress quiz. You'll answer a few questions and get a personalized recommendation. Even better, our listeners can get 50% off site-wide for a limited time. Just visit ghostbed.com/Cox and use the code COX at checkout. Again, that's ghostbed.com/Cox with the code COX at the checkout to save a whopping 50% off site-wide. And he's been shooing her off.
Right.
And texts him, and he picks up the phone, and he looks, and of course his wife is, who's texting you at 11:30 or 12:30 at night, and looks at the phone, and she's saying, come get me. I got pulled over. They're not going to get you. I need you to come get me. And he's texting back like, no, I'm in bed with my wife. And she comes back and she says, if you come get me, I'll give you a blowjob.
Bro.
And that's when his wife's like, let me see your phone. And he's like, fuck. So he'd been trying to try and just push it down. Like from everybody I heard, the rumor I heard was that he wasn't fucking her. He was trying to get her to leave him alone. Like he'd actually transferred to another put in for like a transfer to another, because there's 5 prisons in Coleman.
Right.
So he's trying to get out of the pen and go to like the medium where she's not. Wife sees it, and wife basically says, you're going in tomorrow and filing a complaint on this woman, or I'm packing my bags and leaving you. And I'm taking your kids with me.
That's terrible. He should have just hit it then.
Yeah. Right? It would have been better off if I'd been banging her. So the next day he filed an official complaint, and everybody was like, bro, like they're trying to sweep it under the rug. He's like, I can't. My wife, she's gone. She's leaving my if I don't file the complaint. And he's got all the texts.
That's a career changer for both of them.
Yeah. Oh, they took her from the pen and they transferred her to the low, and she was a nightmare. She was a nightmare. I don't know how she survived at the pen. I'm surprised they didn't stab her at the pen.
Yeah.
She was such an asshole. But that was, and everybody, and here's the funny thing too, is like everybody knew it. Like all the staff were talking about what was going on. Like it was a blatant thing, but it was the whole thing. It was the overwhelming gossip.
Right.
that 2 guards are banging this chicken who's running commissary. They call her Commissary Barbie. Listen, and honestly, like she was a prison 9. She was a free world 6, maybe a 5, but she looked good.
I'll take it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so of course the guys working with her know she's banging 2 of the guards and she's married. And they're like, oh, that marriage is done. It's only a matter of time. And sure enough, like within a year, she's divorced. One of these guys is divorced. I mean, guys are fighting each other in the parking lot.
It happens all the time. It's literally it's like a college frat.
Yeah, it's fucking it's horrible.
It is horrible.
It's entertaining for the inmates though. They're like,
oh yeah. And the officers, they don't realize when they talk, there's always an inmate around.
oh yeah, they say one thing, it
Right.
spreads like wildfire.
That's-
And by the 4th inmate, it's twice as bad.
Oh, it's twice as bad.
Because
But
they're like old women.
But they know where you hang out on Fridays and Saturday nights. They know what school your kids go to.
Yeah.
They know what kind of car you have.
They know you just got some new jet skis.
They know everything.
Yeah, I mean, I would literally have the inmates would be like, "Hey, Thompson just bought 2 fucking jet skis."
Yeah.
He said, it's funny too because like last week he was talking about how fucking strapped he was and he was having to work 20 or 30 hours worth of overtime, and yet this motherfucker just went and bought jet skis. Can you believe that? And I'm sitting there thinking, how the fuck do you know?
Bro,
all
it's
this?
unbelievable, and it's gossip on both parts. They'll know everything.
Right.
They'll know your dirty little secrets. You're sitting there talking, thinking that no one's. There's an inmate right here. There's a fly on the wall. Everyone's watching. Everyone's listening. It is entertaining. I never really had a interaction like that where I had a problem with that. I don't really like to shit where I eat. Sometimes obviously where men will be tempted, right? But at least in the state, half the female staff there, there's rough, but they have 1,000 inmates that are giving them love.
Right.
Because half of these girls, they don't get the love on the outside. No one's telling them that they're beautiful every morning. No one's telling them that they smell good. The inmates will say the corniest thing, but it works. Next thing you know, she's quitting her job, and next year when he gets out, she's picking him up.
Yeah, that's it's funny how common that is.
It's very common.
Like guys will get out and hook up with they've really been. We did the interview with the guy. There was an inmate that was flirting with the guard, which is already was dangerous. Like that could have gone bad.
Yeah,
he was concerned. Like he was like, we really shouldn't have had a friendly of a relationship.
It's called establishing a relationship. You get sent to the shoe for that.
Well, what happens is she was telling him, "I'm leaving." Like she was actually leaving. She was going to go be a dental hygienist. Do you remember the guy I'm talking about? He has the company now that puts the TVs.
Yeah, he did telemarketing stuff.
Yeah. So he leaves. So she leaves like only a month or so before. And he actually asked her full name. He goes, well, when I get out, maybe I'll look you up. He goes, what's your full name? He was like, right then. He said, I could have gone straight to shoot. Like it was a ballsy move.
Yeah, very ballsy.
And she was like, look me up on Facebook. Here's my name. He gets out. He looks her up. They start dating. They got married. They've been together for like 5 years. They've got a successful company together, and
hey, that's a success story, but it doesn't happen very often.
Right.
Next thing you know,
usually it's a nightmare. Yeah.
Next thing you know, she goes to work and everything's gone in her house.
Yeah. Or she shows up and gets escorted off the.
Oh, that's embarrassing. I've seen that.
Yeah, I've seen it too. It's funny. We had one time a chick. Her name was Miss Brown. This was when I was at the Medium. I'd only been there like a year. And there was a guy, I don't forget his name. It wasn't Jimmy, but it was something kind of silly like that, Bobby or Billy or something silly, right? But I'll be honest, he looked like he stepped out of a GQ magazine. Like this guy didn't look like he should be locked up. Right. I mean, I think he did have one tattoo. Anyway, whatever. And Miss Brown should not have been in the Medium. I mean, she was a free world
10.
She was she was a prison 10. She was a free world 8. Like she looked good, bro. And sure enough, if old, whatever Bobby or Jimmy or whatever his name wasn't flirting with her and doing that. And then one night he gets drunk. He's in her office, sitting on her desk, and she's in there, curling her hair. And we're all like, "How long does this last?" Like, I mean, I'm surprised that because the inmates will tell.
That's what happens.
Right.
That's what happens.
I want to say a week. Maybe 2. Listen, she would do like after 10 o'clock count, they come around again. And we got doors. They count like every hour or two.
Right.
She would come by after she counted, go up to his door, and they would sit there and talk through the door for hours. At one point, she got to a point where she would open the door, he'd go upstairs, and they'd talk in the room. Within a week,
Yeah,
escorted off the property.
100%.
Yeah.
There was a librarian. She had to be 70 years old. I wouldn't touch this if it was the last moments on earth.
Right.
No, not happening.
Right.
Well, this guy who was an orderly, and I don't even know how he was an orderly there because he had a life, right?
Right.
And it's like in an area where it's kind of close to the front gate. So I don't even think he should have been there. But anyways, and he had HIV.
Mm.
Well, an inmate got upset that he was banging like this 70-year-old Liberian lady and told staff, and she got escorted off the compound with that thing.
Mm. Mm.
So I mean, she's 70.
Yeah.
By the time it affects her, she's gone anyway. But it happens so often.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there was this one inmate that I was very not close with, but I had a good relationship with him. He was a Nieta, and I would have to deal with some of the Nietas at that time. And at that time I had free range of where I can put inmates and what jobs and stuff. So I was very close with classification. And that's who actually determines on what housing unit you're going to, what job you have, etc. But I had a lot of leeway and a lot of pull on, hey, I want this inmate here, please. I want this inmate here, please. So I would run all of it. So I ran the barbershop, grounds, outside grounds, the kitchen, any major job, laundry, any major job, I was really in control of that, as that was my secondary duty besides being a gang sergeant. Because at that time I wasn't working a dorm. I was in charge of the gangs and running, like, you know, everything I just mentioned. So I was cool with him. So I put him into the kitchen as the head storage guy. You know, that's a high political spot to have.
Right, because you can steal
Well,
out of the
and you're in the storage room where everything is, where it's locked up.
right.
You know, and only you can go in there, and the officer and the civilian lady.
Right.
So I would go in there and eat. I never brought lunch. Let me just make that.
Right.
If anyone complains about the state food, stop complaining. I ate it for all those years I worked there.
Right.
I would never bring lunch, and I love the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, by the way. So I was in there, and he was making every day. He would make me the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and I noticed that the civilian lady, and she was a prison 3.
Right.
But he's in there for a long time. And I noticed her, she's sitting down on a box against the wall. And she's like this. And like I said, I was pretty close with this inmate. Like we were pretty close. We beat up a couple inmates together, together. And he would, you know, help me out with his gang because they weren't really prominent like that, but they were some serious dudes at the time. And I noticed she's like this, and I look at him, and he looks at me smiling. I said, give me my damn sandwich, man. I gotta get the fuck up out of here before I'm involved in any of this shit. So I knew he was banging her. Right. I didn't say anything. I didn't really care, to be honest with you. They were gonna get caught eventually. I think he got transferred to something else, but it happens all the time. It's actually pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I was gonna say too. What about the familiarity? I actually wrote a book about a guy who, when he got to prison, he got there and he's like, within a couple days, he was walking to the chow hall. He looks up and he sees one of his friends from high school's older brother. He's a CO.
As an officer.
And he looked up and he saw him, and he looked up and he was like, hey, and he goes, and turns his head and keeps walking. So he said, like, later on that day, he was walking and he saw him, and he goes, hey, he goes, inmate, come here. And he's like, hey man, what's going on? He says, come here. And he like searched him. He goes, listen, man, he said, if you fucking tell anybody that you know me, they're going to ship you, not me.
100%.
He said, I'll look out for you, but that's all I can do. Don't tell any friends. Don't tell your roommate. You don't know me. You don't know. He gave him a little, he said, don't get comfortable with somebody, say, oh, I know this guy. He said, I'm telling you right now, he said, everybody here is talking. Everybody here is a snitch. They'll all tell on you. They'll all tell on everybody, and you'll get fucking shipped. He goes, your mom ain't going to fucking be able to see you if they ship you to, because his mother would come see him, right?
Right.
And that's, they hold that over you, right? So they're going to ship you to fucking, Kansas or something, and she ain't going to be able to see you, and you got fucking 5 more years or 6 years. So anyway, he was like, so he was leaving by the time I was writing his book. He like, yeah, so-and-so, he's his brother's here, he told me. But that had been 5 years later, 5-6 years later. He's about to leave. But I was going to say one more thing is that there was a black chick that was a CO She was a big one. You know, she was a big one.
There's a lot of them.
But there was a guy she went to high school who was there. This is the low. He's in her office all the time, flirting, and he's telling people, "Yeah, I went to high school with her. We're cool." And he's listen. It wasn't a week. He's on the pack out and gets shipped.
Yeah.
And everybody was like, "Bro, what are you don't tell anybody that. What are you doing?"
Yeah, what are you doing? It's necessary though, because he's not doing it maliciously, right?
Yeah.
He's just running his gums, right?
Yeah.
But it's dangerous for her because if she has a problem with this inmate and now that inmate starts talking to him, he can know where she lives. He can know where her mother is.
Mhm.
You know, a lot of these dudes are serious dudes, especially in the feds.
Yeah.
They get your whole family knocked off.
Or they imagine now his cousin or brother or friend can go to her house
Right.
and say, "Hey, can you bring a cell phone? Just Jimmy, I'll give you $1,000." You know, and that's how it starts, right? Like it's a friend of us, or it's
that's a way. Yeah, that's a way in too. That's a way.
Think about it. You bring in 2 cell phones a month, and they're not searching you. They bring in 2 cell phones a month. That's an extra $24,000 a year on top of your $35,000. Like you're now making you're close to $60,000 a year.
More than what you're making.
Yeah, that's
Right.
a lot. And that's just 2 cell phones.
It's tempting. It is tempting.
And that's nothing. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, let's face it, 2 cell phones is nothing compared to what some of these guys could rake in if they bring in contraband.
100%. And it happens all the time.
Right.
And mostly it does come from the guards.
Yeah.
Listen to this. Tell me how funny this is. The recruitment for Florida Department of Corrections, they don't go to the local high schools. They don't go to the local colleges, to the criminal justice degree departments,
Right.
You know where they put up signs? Just take a wild guess where they put up signs to advertise it. The parking lot on visitation day.
Really?
Bro, you can't make it up. I can't even make that up.
I wonder why is that though?
I think it's because they're all like literally like retarded.
Oh, well, but I mean,
there's no other way. What makes you think? I'm not the smartest person, believe me. I'm not.
Okay.
Right? But I already know if I'm going to recruit, I'm going to put up signs on the highway, right?
Yeah, I'm
going to go to the college, the criminal justice degree department. I'm not going to go to visitation day where the inmates' families are coming and put up signs now hiring.
Yeah.
Like, it's mind-boggling. If you walked into a dorm and you were blindfolded, right? And you heard the officers talking and you heard the inmates talking, you wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah. Yeah. They have the same basic types of interests. They have the same,
Right.
They have the
That's
same.
how they talk.
They talk the same. Listen, a lot of these guys were like, some of the COs were in gangs growing up.
Some of them were.
Yeah.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with that if you change your way, right?
Yeah. I'm not saying, but I'm saying that's something that you're saying that, but let's face it, whoever's running the BOP or the state, those prisons, like they wouldn't want you to have been in a gang. You know what I mean? They would be like, I don't think we want a guy that was a former gang member to be in a car.
If they had a choice, but since it's so like little people that actually want to do it.
Yeah.
I'm no better. I was on the line. I don't even know how I got that job either,
Right.
So I'm not saying I'm perfect. Look what I did, right? But they're definitely the qualification. And the way you just recruit should be, a little better. It's
right.
It's not a good way to get the right type of people up in there.
Well, so you were you running the why can't I remember the name of this? I just want to say the gang unit, but STG.
Yeah.
Were you running STG at this point, or
were
you just underneath the other guy?
So I was underneath him even when I got out of the academy.
Okay.
And then
I assume that, yeah.
And then he transfers, and not even a full year, transfers to another institution to become a captain or a lieutenant. And you can skip only one rank and you can only skip lieutenant. So if you're a sergeant, you want to promote up to lieutenant and then be a captain, you don't have to be a lieutenant. That's the only rank that you can skip and become a sergeant, then a captain.
Okay.
Because there's only 2 to 3 lieutenants on shift for that whole prison. There's not many. It's not like every shift needs a captain. It's only like 2 or 3 departments that need a lieutenant.
Okay.
Right? So I'm not sure if he wanted to be a lieutenant or a captain, but he left and the captain was getting older and he just gave me free range And then the captain ended up leaving. So now I'm very close at the time with my major, who kind of was overseeing the STG and who kind of put me in that spot on admin shift on charge of all of the barbershop and all the cafeteria, everything like that, right? So now I'm basically running it. No, mind you, a little bit of training. No training whatsoever. Not like a California Department of Corrections or a BOP where they put you through strenuous training.
Right.
It's just what you know from the street or what you think you know, and just learning as you go into the field.
Right.
But I wasn't really like too like gun ho on learning it, to be honest with you. All I was doing was making sure that what my major wanted, not crazy amounts of contraband, not crazy amounts of violence, because there was a lot, and just keeping an order on it. That's it.
How many inmates are in this prison?
At this particular institution I was at, it was about maybe 1,300, 1,200.
Okay. That's a good size. And Colvin was 18. The low was 1,800. The medium was 14 or 1,500. So it was basically the size of the medium. That's a lot of fucking people.
Right. And now it wasn't, in Florida, they don't have a medium and low like that. They just have like different like degree of like custody levels, right? So like for instance, if you got sentenced to the BOP and you were a high, you would go to a pen, right?
You're right.
Here in Florida, you would kind of be put on CM, like behind a door. So all like the maximum security prisons here in Florida, they're not really dangerous because the inmates are behind a door. It's basically like the shoe. The whole thing is like the shoe. So the medium's what you would classify a medium is like a high.
Yeah, I was going to say a medium, they're behind the door. You can feed them through the doors. You can,
Right. It's a little different on the way the state runs it on BOP. So like to kind of like transition over to, it would be like a medium, but you have inmates that are high offender on there, like dangerous to staff, and they're basically like the pen, but they're just not called like a.
So you might have one guy behind the door that robs some banks, but isn't really that dangerous, next to another guy who's there for killing 5 people and is never going to get out. This guy's got 10 years. He's getting out. He robbed 3 banks.
Right.
This guy robbed 3 banks with a note. He's still going. And then this guy who's killed 5 people and is never getting out of prison. Those guys could be right in the same.
Correct. Unless your custody level is so low where you have an outside gate pass, you will be at a camp or like a reentry center, something like that.
A guy with 3 murders isn't going to ever get there.
No, never get that. But only recently the Department of Corrections have classification where they would do your height and weight proportion to be in a cell. So back when I was working there, you can literally be 5'1", 120 and be celled up with 6'6", 250.
Yeah, no, that could go bad.
Now it's not as bad. Classification has changed because of so much PREA, Prison Elimination Act.
Mm-hmm.
They had a lot of PREA going on. Mm-hmm. Or, accusations of PREA. No one's behind the door. I wouldn't even want to know. Right? But only recently have they changed that. But that's why Florida is a very dangerous institution, just because the people that are running it, it's a free for all. There's not many things in order that would have kept you safe. Like you said, you could be a nonviolent offender, but be in there for 10 years and be in a cell with a dude that's serving 3 life sentences.
Right. Yeah, it's funny because in Florida, you guys, they go to like a reception center where where everybody's mixed in together until they classify you. But in the Bureau of Prisons, like you're classified from the get-go. Yeah, you're not going to a pen unless you got 10 points.
So a reception center would be equivalent to the same custody level as like an FDC.
Okay.
Or Oklahoma City Transit Center.
Yeah.
It's administrative.
Yeah.
You're being processed. You're being
assessed.
Yeah. Right.
I went through there.
Oklahoma City?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did too.
Yeah, bro. They got it down though, don't they?
Do.
You're almost as upsetting and depressing as it is. The situation is. It's oddly impressive. Like you swarm off that plane, and those guys. It's an assembly line. I've never had the cuffs taken off me so fast and everything. That guy, you walk up on a little stairs and you turn, and I mean, it's
Right.
and you're like, what the hell?
Like wooden plank stairs, right?
Yeah,
It looks
yeah.
like you're about to be executed.
Yeah,
That's how I felt. Yeah.
And then you go down there, like, grab a bag, your bag lunch, and you go in that room with all the diamond plate.
It's like if it's like 300 people that bullpen, right?
And you just you're in there. You're not that tight, but you
It's tight.
are in there. There's a lot in there. You're not sitting down. Everybody couldn't sit down. That's for sure.
You definitely know you're in a prison.
Oh yeah.
You know, you definitely know you're in a prison.
What's funny about that is, I actually have a story. I think Colby's heard this. I'm just gonna do the story, and then I'll stop interrupting. You just
No.
run,
Go
but,
ahead.
but you'll appreciate this. I've been arrested for like a month or so, maybe 6 weeks.
Right.
And so I'm standing there, and I walk in there, and I go get in that room, and we're standing there, and there's a toilet like in the corner, but there was so many people, this old guy couldn't see it. It was an old man. He was probably 65. No, not, he had at least be 70, in his 70s,
Right.
mid 70s, because he was old. And there was a black guy that was there that had to be 6'2", jacked up on steroids, and had gold teeth that had fangs. I shit you not, he looked like a comic book character. He looked like the comic book character Blade.
Okay.
But from the comic book.
Right.
Bigger than, what's his name? Who plays Blade?
Wesley Snipes.
Wesley Snipes is not that tall. He's not that big. He's not like a 6'2" guy. This guy was a giant. And I'm sitting there, and we're not far away, right? I'm sitting there, and he and I, everybody's kind of sizing each other up, right? Like,
That's what happens. Yeah.
we're standing there, and the old man, he's standing there, and he said, I gotta go to the bathroom. And we're like, oh, okay. And he looks over at the door, and he walks over to the door and grabs the door, and he goes, and he goes, hey, they got us locked in here. And me and the black guy look at it. He looks down. We like look at each other, and I go, yeah, there's probably going to be a lot of locked doors from now on, bro. And then the black guy kind of starts chuckling, right? He's like, yeah. And he looks at the black guy looks at the old man. He goes, what are you in here for, Pops? And he goes, and he looked at me and he said, I don't know. I was just taking, my granddaughter. She's one of those lesbians. She's a lesbian. And he goes, oh yeah. He goes, yeah. And she and one of her girlfriends, they wanted me to take some pictures of them, and I was taking some pictures of them, and they put them on the internet, and they selling those pictures. They were selling. I wasn't even selling them. I just took the pictures. And we're like glancing at each other, because in that environment, people, there's no real politics at that point yet, right? Because everybody's stunned. They're not like, I'm gonna fuck you up, because guys are waiting to go to trial. Guys are still fighting their case. Like, I'm not trying to.
They're trying to take it easy.
Right.
Right.
And the way he was saying it, you could tell it's almost like he's old. I think what you were doing was wrong, but you're acting like, oh, I'm just an old man. I don't really know. And we're like, and he, we're like, right. He's like, yeah, and they put it on the internet, and then they was selling them pictures, and I was like sitting there, and so I'm processing it, right? Because I don't really understand I'm not on that. I haven't been locked up enough to start realizing what a CHO is and what makes it illegal, and what, it's
right.
just, and I'm not thinking along those lines, because it's never something that's never entered my world, right? Like when you're
it's not in your norm.
Yeah, and you're 17,
right.
18 years old, you've never heard of underage this or it wasn't as prevalent then. It might have been out there, but I don't know about it. I don't think about those things. So I'm listening to him, and me and the black guy are kind of glancing at each other, and I went, how old's your granddaughter? Because I'm thinking to myself, you're taking pictures of two lesbians, like, there's nothing, and putting them on the internet and selling them. There's nothing illegal about that. Why would you be here? And then it dawns on me, how old is your granddaughter? And he goes, oh, she's 14, 15 years old. And listen, the black dude just kind of looked. He's like, took a step back, and he said, I keep that to myself, Pops. He was, you might not want to be telling a lot of people that. And he was like, well, I didn't do nothing. So I was like, yeah, I don't that's probably not going to go over well like that. And anyway, we ended up saying, there's a toilet over there in the corner. And he goes over, oh, there's all these people here. Well, you're going to have to get used to that.
You're going to have to.
Yeah. But yeah, that was one of those, you're going to meet a lot of very odd people and odd situations. And
100%. And that right there would have pissed me off. Even if I was an officer and overheard him speaking, probably would have slapped him right then and there. I didn't do nothing. That would have really pissed me off.
Well, I had bigger problems than to.
Or at that moment, yeah.
I'm still in shock I'm still in shock that I'm standing next to a guy who's 6'2" has gold fangs and looks like a scarier version of Blade. I mean, he looked like a cartoon character. It's just like
that is. But as you know, in prison, looks are deceiving. Like I seen people come in with no tattoos. They look like a little geeky nerd. Next thing you know, they have tattoos all over their face, their head. And I already seen their rap sheet. How many times they checked in to PC? It's like, dude, who you trying to fool with those tattoos?
It always seems like the guys that are super quiet. That that's the guy who's killed 3 people. He's quiet. He just keeps to himself. He reads. He doesn't talk to. He doesn't have a bunch of friends.
Watches everything.
And you're like, that's the guy who you're like, that guy's got a life sentence and he's killed 3 fucking people and he's been to trial 4 times and beat state cases and now what I'm saying, like you look at his rap sheet and you're like, this guy is a menace. And then the other guy who might be completely tatted up and just jacked up and walks around and everything, and you have a conversation with him and you realize like,
it's a freaking good dude,
nicest fucking guy, and like it's all for show,
right? Usually the big dudes, they already know what they're capable of. They already know they don't have nothing to
be
prove.
An asshole,
right? They're usually very respectable,
right?
Unless you get on the wrong side, you disrespect them. But for the most part, yeah, it's usually little skinny tatted up kids that actually run their mouth and give you a problem.
Yeah, it's funny. I was going to say, it's always like the guy who's a professional boxer or an MMA fighter or who can just destroy anybody in the dorm who's just the nicest, politest.
Right. And it's funny how it works.
Yeah. He just doesn't want any trouble because it's, even though he knows it's not going to end badly for him, it's like no matter what, it's not going to end badly. No matter what, getting into the situation means going to the shoe, I'm getting shipped, I'm happy here.
That's it. It's a little vacation for him.
Right.
Away from the compound.
So you're basically kind of running this unit.
Department. I wasn't working a specific dorm, like I said. I would go into the dorms, to talk to inmates about, whatever's going on at that moment. But I didn't work a dorm. But the power that I had, I was reckless. Literally, I was so reckless. And everyone knew, all the inmates knew me. And not for a bad reason, not for a good reason. They just, for both, they heard me. And I was always respected. I always respected people, 100%. But the minute I was disrespected, they already knew it was a problem. And not to say, like I said, because they knew that I was going to beat them up. Maybe they can mess me up. It didn't matter. They knew I was going to get them one way or another. I would make it very, very difficult for them. But a regular, ordinary inmate that followed the rules or whatever, I never had a problem with them.
Right.
Always respected. Even the high gang, like the inmates that are high ranking in the gangs would respect me because they knew also that I can ruin their whole organization, their whole scheme, whatever's going on in that prison right there, their hustle, I can ruin it in the snap of a finger because I already knew everything that's going on. And a lot of inmates didn't like that. They had problems amongst themselves because if two inmates are from 2 different gangs and they're about to go at it, it's not like the feds where they got to have permission from their shot caller to go. In Florida, it's a free-for-all. There's no politics here in Florida. And they just take off right then and there. But if I hear something's brewing from 2 different gangs, that's all I cared about. I would go to the one I had the best rapport with on both sides, and we would talk it out and tell them, yo, you need to handle this. I'll make sure on rec time that over here in the cut by this dorm, there's not going to be any officer for 15 minutes. You got 15 minutes. Anyone who gets caught is you're on your own. And so I was very unorthodox on how I handle things.
Right.
So if I knew one organization was in charge of all the cell phones and they're renting them out and they're letting no one else get no play on no cell phone, because most of the time in the state of Florida, if you're not in a gang, you don't have a cell phone unless you're paying.
Right.
Very rarely. It's going to get taken. Don't care who you are. That's just how it is. So I really didn't really care too much about the cell phones. But if it's out of hand, it's flooding the whole prison. Now it's my job to come up in here and make sure, see who's going. And I had a lot of snitches. And not that I even asked for it. They would just literally come in here and sit down like me and you were talking and come and tell me everything.
Yeah.
And I respected it, but I didn't respect it. I already knew I can't trust you.
Yeah.
You know, I'll take your information. Don't expect no favors from me for anything because I don't trust you. So if you want an inmate hit off the yard, I can make it happen. I can go mess with him, or I can get someone else to go get him off. If you want him off, if you're giving me information, I'll get him off. But if you're snitching like that blatantly, I'm not messing with you.
You understand? Like in federal whatever at Coleman, I don't know where it's everywhere. I know at Coleman they would put guys on the payroll. So there would be a snitch, and they would put them like on the payroll. They could actually put money on their books.
Right.
They could pay them as almost like a job, like a facility job where you're getting $95 a month, or you're getting $210 a month to do whatever. Sorry, because I know because
I heard about that.
Because I would get called into SIS because I was ordering paperwork on inmates, right? Like Freedom of Information Act, and I was writing stories on different inmates, right? So I'm writing your true crime story, let's say, and I'd order your Freedom of Information. And so every once in a while, half the time it just got in. The other half the time, SIS would get a hold of it first. They'd go through the mailroom. They'd call me and they go, Cox, what's going on? You have this guy, John Boziak's, you know, this is police reports from fucking, Miami-Dade, like what's going on? And I'd be like, I'm writing a book about him. And they go, okay, well, what's the story? And I tell them, look, he was brought up. I tell them a quick version of the story. And they go, does he know you're getting this? And I go, yeah, he knows. And sometimes they would have to ask the guy.
Right.
But after once or twice, it was like, okay, does he know you're getting this? Yeah, okay, here. And they give it to me, which, is not supposed to happen.
No.
But there were multiple times, well, not probably just twice, so where they actually said to me, like, listen, like we could, I was looking at your books, I was looking at how much money you get in, like, if you hear anything, like I can, like, do you know of any cell phones? Do you know what I mean? And I was like, bro, come on, like I cooperated in my case.
Right.
I went back to court to get my sentence reduced. Nobody's fucking telling me where there's
nothing.
A fucking cell phone.
No way.
Like I couldn't help you if I wanted to. I don't know. But by him saying, we can put money on your books. And it was like, I was thinking to myself, I wonder how many guys are getting money on their books.
That's crazy. I didn't know that. I heard about it. I didn't believe that was true because they don't do that in the state.
Okay.
Like, I can't even offer you, if you want to cooperate with me, I can't even offer you that I can get time off your sentence, or you get your good time back, your gain. I can't help you.
No.
You're doing it for free.
They specifically told me, we can get you a Rule 35. Like, if you help us get a case,
wow,
we can actually put into the was it the DOJ? He goes. We can actually file for Rule 35 from the DOJ. And I was like, I hear you. And listen, you saw my jacket. I'm ready to go. But nobody's fucking selling me. Nobody's selling me a cell phone. Nobody's telling me where there is. Like, I promise you, none of these guys are going to tell me that. And they were like, he was like, all right, well, keep your eyes open. I was like, yeah, all right.
Right, I would have been ready to sing too.
I mean, yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. I wish I could help you, but it was just too well known that,
Right.
Cox is,
Right.
Yeah, don't
too
trust
suspicious. Yeah, too suspicious of you.
But I'm sure that there were guys that were. Matter of fact, there was a guy who had come to Coleman from another facility because he had been bringing in cigarettes, not even like drugs. He'd been bringing in cigarettes through a guard and got the guards in trouble. And they came in the middle of the night, banged on his door, like after 10 o'clock count, banged on his door and took him and moved him to another facility. They moved him to the medium. And he was, at that moment, he was the biggest supplier of cigarettes. He'd already gotten another couple of guards bringing in cigarettes already. Wow. Like, he was whittling down. He was going from facility to facility, whittling down his time.
To do it.
Yeah.
Right. That was his job.
Just for cigarettes. And it's, because it's illegal to have, it's contraband.
Well, they don't look at it as if it's cigarettes or if it's a drug or a cell phone. They look at it as the intention, right? It's your intention. You intentionally trying to make profit on bringing something that's not banned. So you can literally, it sounds crazy. You can literally, an officer can get the same amount of time as bringing in cigarettes as a cell phone. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It's the intention.
Yeah.
It's your intention of bringing in that contraband as an officer. You're smoked. You're cooked.
Right.
They'll cook you for that, for sure.
So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I'm going to stop doing that.
No.
But go ahead. Sorry. You just keep reminding me of stuff. I'm like, oh my God, like it's not like that.
No,
here,
I like
like,
it. I like
okay.
the conversation. Keep
All
it
right.
going. It's so all the power that I had, the leeway,
Right.
and I was getting at this time, I'm getting into a decent amount of scuffles too, right? With disrespectful inmates, or if an inmate needs to be taken out for something, sometimes I would even go get that inmate out. If he's a major problem and I came up to you, that's your brother, that's in your gang, and I said, yo, listen, I'm getting way too much complaints. I'm getting complaints from officers. This dude is crashing out. I need him up out of here. You better handle it before I handle it, because the way you handle it is going to be different than the way I handle it, right?
Right.
And if it wasn't done to my liking, or if it wasn't done at all, that inmate was going to get smashed and off that compound.
So what types of behaviors, like what are these guys doing that are making them such a problem? What would an example be? Sorry.
So in Florida, there's a lot of real dudes out there. Don't get this, twisted.
Yeah.
There is, but there's also a lot of snitches.
Right.
And a lot of snitches goes up the chain. So now they're on my neck. So it could be just a little thing that keeps getting brought up. Extortion, right? The staff don't really care if you get extorted, but this guy keeps writing complaint after complaint after complaint. He's getting everyone else involved. Now it looks bad on the staff, right? And the whole organization of Department of Corrections, it's an illusion. The only thing that the higher ups care about is the maintenance, the parking lot being painted, like the parking spots, all the grass that's strictly like cut to perfection, the expansion joints on the sidewalk, no weeds growing up. That's all they care about, is the illusion for when Region comes and gives them an evaluation. Because once you get to a certain rank, there's only so much you can go up now. Like for a warden, you can't be what's going to go higher than a warden. Or what's going to go higher than a warden is becoming region. So in Florida, there's 4 or 5 regions, I believe.
Okay.
And they have a regional director, which would be basically the warden of all the wardens of that prison, of the prisons in that region. Like South Florida is like region 3 or 4, and they have like 3 or 4 prisons or 5 prisons that are in region 4 for the South Florida.
Okay.
So the regional director would be the head shot from the state in charge of all the wardens. So people, even the wardens I don't know if they get kickbacks. I heard they do. I can't speak on it for sure, but they get extra money, extra bonuses for less crime, more, and your appearance and stuff. It's crazy as it sounds. Literally, they don't care about the inmate safety. They barely care about the officer's safety, right? They just want the illusion of a beautiful prison.
Right.
It's unbelievable.
That everything's
It's
running
crazy.
smoothly, nobody's getting stabbed or killed, that the grounds are kept up well,
Right.
the prison appears to be in good shape.
Exactly. And every complaint, small complaint, inmates are going to complain about the fucking most ridiculous thing. It's always going to happen. You're not going to stop it. But if it's one after another and it keeps going up the chain of the staff reading those complaints, that's not going to look good on them.
Right.
So they try to hush it, or they don't care. They would literally tell me, we want him out of here. Get him up out of here, whatever you got to do.
Right.
And I would go up in there and get him up out of there.
What does that mean?
I would either send another gang out on him, and I would look the other way with certain things. And I know it's like, wow, you sound just as dirty as an officer bringing stuff in. I don't look at it that way. I didn't bring in contraband, right? And I know that I can never stop the contraband.
Right.
And the way I viewed it is I need to keep it to a minimum at least. Because in order for a facility to run smoothly, I believe, is that you need some things. You can't be by the book. You can't be by the book. In order to have, respect and the way you want the prison to run, you have to be unorthodox. You may have to do some things that some people are listening and be like, wow, this guy would actually let a gang attack another inmate, this and that. Yes, but it's for the better of everyone else. So one guy got to go, but it's saving everyone else because it can create a riot. It can create civilians that work in the prison to get hurt, the inmates to get hurt. So one guy gets hurt instead of maybe 50 stabbings that day.
Right.
That's the way I looked at it.
Right.
A lesser of evil, I guess.
Well, it's like I was gonna say they'd let them, like, you're not allowed to gamble. You're not allowed to have tattoos,
Right.
tattoo guns or tattoos. You're not allowed to, but they allow them to do it because it's a way to keep them entertained. Like if you said, hey, guess what? Everybody, you're gonna go to your cell and you're going to read, and there's no TV, no gambling, no tattoos, listen, they'll destroy that prison. They'll attack the guards, they'll destroy the prison, and it won't go away. So you have to give them TVs. Why? To entertain them.
Exactly.
Let them burn off some steam gambling. Let them burn off some steam playing handball.
Right. Let them.
Right.
Some officers, they try to be dicks and, they don't even have rec that day.
Right.
Well, now you may have a problem now. Like I'm all for if there's something happened, you got to shut the rec yard down, you shut it down. But just to shut it down, just to be a dick because one inmate pissed you off.
Well, that's what happens with the TVs. They use the TVs as babysitters, right? Like they'll take them away for 2 days, and the other inmates will tell the other inmates, like guys will be causing a problem, to shut your fucking mouth. Don't talk during count. Why? He's not going to let us watch the fucking game tonight. That's why. Like they'll police themselves.
They will.
For access to TV or whatever.
Right. They 100%. That's 100%. But I would only use the TV aspect or the rec yard aspect or something like along those lines just to get at you. So if I didn't like you and I walked into a dorm, right? I literally, we just didn't like each other, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm on to you and I'm going to get you one way or another, either legally or illegally, but I'm going to get you. And you're just as a jerk off as I'm a jerk off, right? I would walk in and be like, all right, listen up. Everyone's going to be locked down for the rest of the night. Be like 2:00 in the afternoon. Everyone's going to be locked down for the rest of the night because of this fucking jerk off keeps doing this, and I'll make something up. Right? And then they're going to police, someone's going to check that motherfucker.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's how I would do it. Or if I didn't like you, I'd walk by you and be like, yo, thank you for the information you gave me yesterday. That was very helpful. I'm going to go get them later.
Fucking God. What a fucking problem.
They would look like, what? I didn't say shit. What? I have the paperwork inside. You want me to come show it? Or are you going to shut your mouth? Which one are you going to do? But I would only do that with problematic inmates that no one, even these other inmates, didn't want.
Right.
Like not too many inmates had a problem with me, except the ones that were, some of them are gang related, some of them were affiliates, but there was a problem. I had a reason to come for you. I wasn't just picking on you because, your pants weren't tucked in or you sucked your teeth or you didn't get up when we told you to get up. It wasn't really like that. I had a job, and that was strictly to keep things going and to minimize the potential damages that these gangs cause.
What are some of the issues that these guys are causing? Like the main ones that, make you want to...
So most of the problems that these inmates cause are, with the gangs at least, is the extortion. Mm-hmm. Extortion is huge, and people, even if they're getting extorted, they're going to write a complaint on you. Right. And like I said, the staff don't really care about that, but enough of them come, enough different people come, now you have a problem that you can't handle. The extortion, the gangs are running the prison, extortion, right? Enough complaints, it starts causing, the wheel running where this prison can't get a hold of these gangs. Do we have to send in extra help to come and wash them away? Or can you handle it with yourself? It looks bad on the higher ups. Right? The contraband, the drugs, the synthetic drugs that they use is tremendously dangerous for everyone involved, even the people that are using it. These guys that are smoking it and they're getting violent, they're drinking their own urine, they're eating their own feces, they are running around thinking that they're on fire. It's crazy stuff that I've seen.
No, I've seen the on fire thing. Like I've seen these guys running, or then they'll strip their clothes off. They're running around naked.
And a lot of them aren't even meaning to be violent with you. They just don't know what's going on. So the minute you grab them, you don't know if they have a knife on them. Nothing. So it's tremendously. It's funny that a lot of the inmates laugh about it and stuff, but it could go south in the snap of a finger just because how dangerous you're not in your right state of mind. And the only thing that really kind of works is like if you slap them you slap them out of nowhere, like really hard and really fast. Sometimes they snap up out of it.
Right.
Some people say throw water on them. I don't think it works. A couple of times that I did it, we had to put him in a wheelchair. Just one, because thought he was swimming, so he was like just swimming.
I've seen that
So we
too.
had to get him up in the wheelchair, and we're bringing him to medical, and I seen what was going on. So he's coming into medical, and they can't get him up. So I told the nurse, "Hey, go inside for a second. Hold on, just go inside for a second." So she's like, "What?" I said, "Just go inside for a second." So she goes inside, and I just hit him as hard as I could, just open hands, and he stood up, and it kind of scared me. It kind of scared me because he stood up and was like looking at me like he didn't even know what happened, but he snapped out of it.
Right.
So I don't suggest any officers actually do that,
Yeah.
but that's the only way you can actually wake them up, snap them out of it. But it's very dangerous because if inmate dies because of the drug problem,
Yeah.
the warden's it's not gonna be good.
Okay.
So it was mostly the drugs, the cell phones. People are calling in drugs to be thrown over the fence or to throw the bag somewhere on the grounds for the outside grounds to come in. You know how outside grounds is a big portion of how the drugs come in.
Right. Some guy who's the guys that are mowing the yards or doing edging outside, and they'll know that over by this group of trees, they'll look for maybe it looks like a rock. It's like a black, like a whatever. It'll be like a
balloon,
I was gonna
maybe.
say, like a black balloon or something.
Right.
So they can grab it and stick it in their pants, and then they'll go when they come back in. They get searched really haphazardly because they know their boss isn't gonna really give a shit, and they get to bring it inside.
Exactly, because the bosses, they do the strip searches and everything.
Right.
But you know where it's going. Once it's up there, it's kind of hard to even know it's up there. You can tell by the way they walk or they squat down, but most of the time it's up there. It's fucking up there.
Right.
And a lot of these inmates know that the metal detectors in these institutions, each one could be different. It's the sensitivity level.
Mm.
So if the sensitivity level is low because the person in the control room doesn't want to hear the beeping all day, right? So they'll lower the sensitivity. So even if you have something that will go off and you put enough electrical tape on it, sometimes it won't go off.
Okay.
So, and each day is different. So like if you're an officer trying to bring stuff in, that would be one of the worst ways because you don't know where the sensitivity level is going to be that day.
Yeah, I was just I was thinking about this, the guys bringing in stuff, the different ways, and I was also thinking, I knew a guard had told me this one time, was that he'd gotten a bonus for finding like a cell phone, or he found something where they actually were giving the guards like bonuses for finding things. This is, BOP, for finding cell phones or for finding. And that was one of the things they were like, listen, if you know of any cell phones, because they were giving them bonuses.
Right.
So that's why. So suddenly the guards, I don't know how long, I don't know if they did it, if it was a normal thing or if they did it for a certain period of time, because there was a good 3 to 6 months. I remember we were in search like just all the time. And somebody, and being one of the guards, had said that yeah, they were now given bonuses to find cell phones or something.
Wow, I would have been rich.
I know. I would have brought in people. I would think if you were a guard, you just start bringing in cell phones.
You could do that too.
If you just got a cell phone, it's not my fault it doesn't work. I want my fucking $200 or $600.
Right, but it's very easy. If you go to a certain organization and say, listen, for this time frame, I'm not gonna mess with you. I'm not gonna mess with your I'm not gonna mess with your hustle. But I need something from this organization over here, because I already know I want them up out of here. There's too many of them. They're acting wild. They're feeling themselves now that they have higher numbers. I want them up out of here. And I know they got a lot of cell phones. Eventually, that organization will be able to tell you where they're keeping their cell phones.
Right.
And you got to keep your word now.
Yeah.
So if I tell you, hey, I'm not going to mess with you or any of your brothers, but I need something from these people and I need it by this day, or I'm coming hard on you now.
Right.
You'll have it. I guarantee you will have it. But you can't act on it because prison has eyes. Everyone, there's always a fly on the wall.
Mm-hmm.
So if they see me talking to this one specific organization, right?
2 hours later, you're in this other guy's
Right.
locker.
So I would have an officer who was by the book, and he'd be like, "How do you know all this?" I would never tell him my secret.
Mm-hmm.
I would never tell. If I had a thing where someone's telling me something and I messed with you, I would never ever give up your identity. He would always ask me, "How you getting it? How you getting it? How do you know?" I'm like, "Man, I just kind of know where they hide things. So go check this area, go check this area, and go check that inmate. It's going to be in this light here, or the cinder block underneath, or the legal mail." Because a lot of inmates get it messed up. They hide a lot of stuff in the legal mail, thinking that we can't go through the legal mail. First of all, I don't even care if I can't go through the legal mail. I'm going to go through your legal mail, and I'm going to write up the DR or whatever it is, right? And I didn't find it in legal mail. I found it in your laundry bag.
Right.
How you going to prove that I went to
Yeah.
your
Wait,
legal
what's
mail?
your argument? No, it was in my legal mail, not my laundry
Right.
bag.
These dudes are stupid. But so that would be those things right there. To someone who never really been to prison or worked at a prison, may look like, oh, there's cell phones, or there's drugs in there. But it makes it very, very dangerous. And even the extortion makes it dangerous, because now the people that are getting extorted, they may go to another organization to pay for protection, and now the ones that they're paying may have to do something to the other organization now, because now that's their hustle. That's how they make their money.
Mm-hmm.
And now you trying to ruin their hustle, but the other organization looks at it as, now you're ruining my hustle because I was extorting him. Now you're going to get paid. So now something's very small like that can cause a whole fiasco. People get stabbed and sliced in prison for about a lot less than that.
I know you mentioned it just real briefly, but where are some places that they would hide contraband, like good places, or people, the place the average Joe wouldn't think about, like where are they hiding these things?
So the craziest things that I seen was one inmate had it in, he had a very little small phone. They were called finger phones.
Mm-hmm.
They had finger phones in. They had some Androids that you would see, but when I was working there, they had the G-Star finger phones. Literally, it was about the wide and as long as your finger, and you would cut off like one of the gloves, like a latex glove, and you would put it up in there, right, and then maybe put it through another bag or something, right, and hide it. And where he was the orderly, and I already knew that he had the phone because someone gave me an information, or else I would have never found it. So he put it up in the bag, and he tied it to the bottom of a mop. Tied it, and then he put the mop on top of it. Mm-hmm. And whenever time an officer would come for searches and stuff, since he was the house man, he would act like he was going and mop. Mm-hmm. And you would never know where it is, because who's going to go check the mop?
Right.
You'll go check the mop closet. You go check the shower. You ain't going to check the mop.
Right.
I mean, at least if I'm going to do search, I'm not going to go check a mop. And he had it inside the mop. Boom.
I thought you were going to say,
Oh, that happens too.
Yeah, that happens.
That happens a lot. But most of the people that have the phones, they don't hold on to it themselves. They have a hold down man.
Yeah.
Right? So usually it would be older inmates, because people feel like, oh, no one's really gonna go search them. They're old. They're sitting there. No, those are the dudes that still have the mind of a young convict. They just more mature and know how to go under the radar and not be so loud and put attention on yourself. So it would be in common areas as well. So a lot of inmates didn't like to have the stuff in their cell all the time, because they do a lot of searches. Like this institution I worked at, they did a lot of searches. So they would put it in common areas. Especially in the open bay dorm, they'll have like a long counter, just a little taller than this, all the way down. I have like 8 sinks on one side, 8 sinks on the other side, right? And it had like a metal casing. And somehow they shimmied up, and it's kind of genius, because the officer station is 5 feet away. All they have to do is look to the left, and they could see in the bathroom and see it. So how they did it, I don't know. And they opened it, and then they put some type of plywood. So when you open it, you just think that's the framing.
Right.
But the plywood, they must have, I don't even know how they got the plywood, honestly. Maybe from the tool card, or grounds workers got it, but they had the plywood. And the only reason why we were able to find it is because the plywood wasn't as long as the whole, counter of the bathroom. So it was missing about like a foot, 2 feet. So we're like, if that was the wooden framing of this,
Yeah.
it would have covered it, right? So they're like, pull it up, and as soon as you pulled it up, the wood, plywood that they had, it just fell inside, and that's where we found all the alcohol. There was a couple cell phones in there, and they had it all organized. So when they opened it, they know whose is what, like what sink it was in front of.
Yeah. But if it's in a common area,
You
you don't
can't-
know whose it is.
Right.
And the other thing is, so a lot of guys will have, there's one guy and there's like 10 guys or 5 guys paying that guy he keeps the phone for you, keeps it charged up, make sure it's
Right.
available for you all the time. And if he gets hit, if his place gets searched and they find the cell phone, he says, that's my cell phone. He's going to the
He
shoe.
has to go to the shoe.
Yeah. He
Right.
doesn't say, man, that's Jimmy's fucking phone. Or, no, that's your phone. You're going to the shoe. But he might be getting $100 or $200 from 8 different guys. He's making $800 or $1,000 a month. He's living really well.
Or they just pay him in, drugs.
Yeah.
Or he's getting extorted to do it. A lot of times I've seen that too. They're extorting you to do it. You don't have a choice. This is your safety right here. It's in a way, it's kind of like putting in work. And that, but most of the
I was
time,
gonna say everybody would make sure you were okay too, because if you're holding 10 guys' cell phones, then nobody wants to fuck with you. 'Cause
Exactly.
If something happens to you, everybody loses their cell phone.
exactly. So that's most of the time. Sometimes you would find more shanks in the cell than the cell phones.
I was gonna say in federal prison, it's not really, nobody's really getting. If they are getting extorted, it's like friendly extortion at best.
Well, at a low, I guess.
Yeah, at a low. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Where they're just paying them. If you're at a low, you probably have a family out there that can send you $400 or $500 a month or something. You know what I'm saying? You pay somebody to hold it, and
Right.
so they'll sell their cell phone, their minutes on their phone. They'll sell.
Mhm.
There's ways to make money. But so anyway, what's going on? What happens? What happens next?
So with that free reigns that I have, I don't even have a captain really to report to. Kind of just do what I want. Like I said, to me, I don't look like I was doing anything wrong. I look at it as I wasn't by the book, but I was unorthodox, but it was working because I had the respect from the inmates where they would actually sit down and tell me what's going on, and I would let them handle it themselves if they can. If they can't, then I handle it. But it was getting to my head a little bit, and this is where ego. And I'm young now, and this is where ego starts coming in because
How old were you? You got to be in.
I was
your
about
20s?
like early 20s.
Okay.
Right. So now the ego comes in, and I'm not afraid to say it. Ego does come into play here.
Right.
Because a lot of situations that I got where I fought inmates, could have been talked out. And I did talk out sometimes, but sometimes I'll just be quick to slap you or punch you or take the belt off and fight you one-on-one. But this is where my downfall came. I started getting into a lot of uses of forces, but they were undocumented. So I would fight you or slap you or something, and it wouldn't go documented. I never put paperwork on you. Especially if me and you fought one-on-one, I would never put paperwork on you. We would shake hands. Sometimes we still said fuck you, or if we want to go again, we go again. Or sometimes we still didn't like each other, but 9 times out of 10, we had an understanding. We might not have liked each other, but we have an understanding that I'm going to do what I have to do, and you can do what you have to do, but if it's in the way of my hustle, you're done. You know? But I was getting way too reckless where the warden, all the higher ups were telling me, hey, you need to take a chill pill. You're on the radar way too much. And I got put under investigation by the OIG, Office of Inspector General. That's like SIS.
Okay.
But no way near as trained as SIS. They're a joke. So they would come and say, hey, you're under investigation. And they would kind of read you like a kind of a Miranda right, but not really, because you're not really under arrest, but you're under investigation. And you have to go in the room. You don't have to talk, but you have to go in the room and hear them say whatever they have to say. And half the time I'd be like, where's the paperwork? Well, you don't have any paperwork. Well, then why the fuck am I here? Because nothing obviously happened. Well, these are guys, I said, you're listening to inmates, right?
Right.
I'm in charge of STG. They don't like me because I can ship them or I sent their brother somewhere. They don't like me. Obviously, they're going to make up stuff. So if you don't have any proof of anything, why am I sitting here? And they did not like me. they're the ones who end up actually getting the FBI involved because inmates were getting, there was hits on inmates. No one died or anything like that.
Right.
Where the OIG, he knew everything, and inmates were snitching
Right.
because when they had if something happened and the hit went and it took place, and that inmate's in PC until he gets transferred out, he would, I guess, enough of them went to the OIG and started telling them everything, that I'm working with this gang. So they thought I was involved in an organization, but after I was arrested and everything, I spoke to the FBI. They thought at first I was a part of an organization, but then they realized that I'm not. I'm just working with numerous ones.
Right. So what was the issue that got the FBI involved?
So a lot of the gang hits were my
When you
name.
say gang hits, like
Like-
murders?
Well, not murders per se, but they would be some serious repercussions where inmates are getting stabbed up a couple of times. They're getting hit up. They're getting sent, out. And where the prisons are, usually they're not close to town, so they got to get airlifted out.
Mhm. So
a lot of inmates were getting airlifted out, and it was getting out of hand. I was getting a little out of hand with letting shit slide, and putting my hands on some of these inmates myself. So I was so out of control where I would walk through a dorm looking for an inmate, and if I had to go piss or something, I would just go piss right in your cell.
Right.
Like use your toilet, just piss right in your cell, not even flush the toilet. Like I was getting a little too out of hand, and all the staff knew it, and they would literally tell me, "Oh, you're on the radar. Please slow the hell down. Whatever you're doing, just slow the hell down." And I didn't listen, and I should have listened. I remember this like yesterday. I was getting a haircut from an inmate, and the staff has their own staff barber.
Right.
That's an orderly. But I didn't go to him. He was like, an old dude, can't do a fade or nothing. So I had an inmate that I put into the barbershop. So it would be middle of rec. I swear to God, it would be middle of rec. I would walk into the barbershop, kick the inmate out that's getting a haircut, sit in the chair and tell the dude to give me a haircut.
Okay.
And that's just like, that's just was my mentality. I was young and I was reckless. Literally, whatever I thought to do, I would do it. And eventually I got it smart where I would be, smart where if I was going to hit this inmate or I was going to fight this inmate or whatever it was, I would do it in a place where no one can see. But there would be sometimes it would just be blatant in front of the middle of the walkway where all the dorms are or classification window was. I was starting to let, my method, my way, and the fact that I had so much leeway on whatever I wanted to do, I was letting it get to me, and that was my downfall. Was that?
So I'll tell you how this can go bad. I don't really know how it went bad at this point, but in Coleman there was a lieutenant, big guy. He's like 6'6". He's was married to whatever. I don't know if it was a lieutenant or captain. I don't know what she was, but she was in the shoe at the pen, female, and they work the shoe, right? Like it's a long hallway with a bunch of cells. You can feed people through the cells,
Through the flap.
through the flap. And so really these guys almost, and in Coleman, they have a shower and a sink toilet combo, right? So you really never have to leave that cell. Now they're supposed to leave like once, I don't know if it's once a day to get 30 minutes, or maybe it's once a week to get 30 minutes or an hour of rec, whatever. Well, there was an inmate that was constantly giving this woman a hard time. I mean, talking shit, just calling her names or saying, really just being super disrespectful. And she really got irritated. I want to say he might have tried to grab her once through the cell. Something happened. He was being a dick. And there was another inmate, super nice guy, big guy, huge guy. And so one day she's walking down, and I may have this slightly off. You've heard this before, I think. So she's walking down, and one of the big guy who's been super cool to her, very respectful, says to her, or he's being moved or something. And he says, either she tells him or he tells her, let me take care of that guy for her. Put me in the cell.
Right.
I want to say maybe she might have said, regardless, I don't know which. I know that we had always heard one thing. She said something else.
Right.
which was, that the inmate had always said that she went to him and said, I'm going to put you in that cell, break his fucking arm. I want you to break this guy's arm.
Probably did.
Right. Now, of course, she says, no, he asked to be put in the cell, whatever. Either way, it was for you to move this guy into this guy's cell for whatever reason it was completely inappropriate.
100%.
But she moves him into the cell. The guy gets in there. His intent is, I'm going to break the guy's arm. And but the guy struggles. He doesn't want his arm broken. So the big guy gets him into a fucking chokehold and ends up choking him to death and breaks his neck. And all of this, the conversations, the back and forth, everything is on video. So you've got an inmate who this guy's giving her a hard time every time she goes by. One day he's giving her a hard time. She literally goes across the hall, says something to the fucking guy. He cuffs up, takes him, puts him in this fucking cell, cuffs up, everything.
Right.
Very obvious what happened.
What's happening?
Something's wrong. And so the FBI, there's a murder. It was a murder. The FBI is coming.
It's an actual crime scene now.
Yeah.
Right, yeah.
FBI comes in, questions the big guy. What happened? Keep in mind, there are other inmates who have heard the conversation. All these inmates are more than willing to say, yes, this female CO was being given a hard time. She stuck that guy in. I'll say it. I heard the whole fucking thing. I'd like to get out of prison. So when the FBI charges her, they indict her. She denies it the whole way through. That's not what happened, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Well, that's not what everybody else says. And it sure as fuck looks like that's what happened on the video. They come to her and they give her what I think is a sweetheart deal, 10 years. Giving you 10 years. You go to prison for 10 years. That's a gift. Let's face it. We didn't lose a veteran. You didn't lose a patriot here.
Right.
You at least lost an inmate that's got a life fucking sentence and is a piece of shit.
That is a sweet deal. That is.
Right. She doesn't take it. She goes to trial. She gets, I don't know, it's either 45 years or life. I think she got a life sentence. I'm not sure. It's a life sentence. Keep in mind, the lieutenant she was married to, saw him every day. Big, huge, nice guy,
Right.
I mean, stern, but a big guy. Yeah. His fucking wife is locked up 3 states over for the rest of her fucking life. So I'm saying that's the fear, is that those types of, hey, I'm going to let you do this, and you're thinking they're going to beat his ass, or the fear is obviously, and that's what I'm saying, that why is it so serious that these two guys get into a fight? They're in 2 different gangs. This gang is being whatever. This guy disrespected this guy. This guy borrowed money and owes this money. I'm going to let him fight it out. The fear is he stabs him to death. You put this guy in a situation where he ends up getting murdered or gets stabbed, and I know when you say getting stabbed, because I've been in prison, right? And one of my stories is the first day I was in prison was that the fucking, they do a lockdown. They start screaming, the PA's going off, they're lockdown. And my cellie comes to me, he's like, I just gotten there, bro. I've been there a couple hours. He's like, yo, bro, we got to go in the cell. I'm like, what's going on? He goes, someone got stabbed in the rec yard. And I was like, someone just got killed in the rec yard. He goes, no, bro, they just stabbed him up a little bit. I remember he did this, what you realize, first time I'd ever seen that. Now if I saw that, somebody do that, I'd be like, oh, somebody's going to get stabbed.
Right.
And he goes, they just stabbed them up a little bit. And I was like, I'm in a place where they say stab them up a little bit. But I realize they're stabbing you with a knife that's something like this big. They don't want you to die. I want to stab you a few times. I want you to get taken off the compound.
Right.
That's what I'm hoping.
That's exactly it.
If they said, hey, do you want to murder this guy? You want this guy to die? Fuck no, I don't want him to die. I just want to stab him a few times so that it looks really bad. He's bleeding. He looks like he's been stabbed. He goes to the fucking hospital. He gets medevaced out, goes to the hospital. He never comes back here. That's my goal.
Exactly.
Not to kill him.
Exactly. I just need him the fuck out of here.
Right.
I have a question. So as a CO, like you trying to get rid of some guys, like you don't have the ability to just file some paperwork and send them somewhere else?
No. Not as a sergeant. You don't have that.
Yeah.
And you still need some type of due process. Like you need something to say, why is he a problem? What's happening?
Right.
Especially if he hasn't been locked up, any DC, disciplinary confinement, shots or anything like that. You can't get him because
the problem is Florida doesn't have that many prisons. In the federal system, you could actually say that he threatened you or something like that in the federal system, and they'll take him. They probably can ship him, right? But it's Florida.
But-
how many prisons are there? How many places can he go?
Right. And how many times can I use that excuse?
Yeah,
You
then
know
you
what I mean?
become the guy who's shipping people all over the fucking place.
Right. Because I very rarely wrote a DR. Very rarely. That wasn't my style. I was gonna get you out a different way. You know, I was gonna get you out a different way, or have someone else get you out a different way. You know.
So what ends up happening? Like, how does this go bad?
So what actually happened had nothing to do with the gang thing at all. I went to a backup call. They were requesting assistance, and I don't know. I very rarely went to them, to be honest with you. But this one day, I guess I was nearby. I went, and there was one YO unit there, youthful offender unit. But here's the thing: it was not like 12, 13-year-olds. It was like 21 to 24. Because here in Florida, I don't know why, but you can still be a YO at 24 years old. So if you get charged for the first time at 24, most likely you'll be charged as an adult.
Right.
But like if you got charged when you were like 18 as a YO and you got sentenced to a couple of years, you're still considered a YO up until 24.
Okay.
So this was a dorm that's introducing them outside of the YO dorm to a main compound. So now they're in a dorm, but they don't eat at the same time, and their dorm is sectioned off with gates. Right?
Right.
So they're still on the compound, but they're not really a part of the compound. I never even stepped foot in there. I never even talked to a YO. Even if I heard, oh, you got to go check this YO out because STG related, I wouldn't even go talk to him. It's probably not even verified. He's not in the system. I don't care what he's claiming. I'm not going to waste my time. So I went there for assistance, and I had an officer that was kind of like not under my wing, but I worked with him. I was just a higher rank than him, you know. But I didn't look at him any less or anything. And he would put in a lot of work. He was kind of on a radar too. FBI radar, I don't know, but definitely OIG radar, which is internal affairs.
Right.
So because he would be quick, like maybe for no reason to do something to you. Like if you were in need of help, he's definitely one person that you would want there for him. I'll give him that.
Right.
So he happened to be there, and there was all female staff at the dorm, and these inmates were going wild. And these are some big dudes. We're not talking about little skinny 24-year-olds. We're talking about some big kids, you know, that been in the system a while. And some of the YO camps here in Florida are just as vicious as the main prison.
Well, if he's 23 or 24, he's a fucking adult. If he's over 18, he's an adult.
That's how I looked at it. But in Florida, under 24, certain circumstances, you're still considered a YO. But that really has nothing to do with if he was a YO or not. But I was just explaining that he came in that dorm. That's what the dorm he went to. So they were being disrespectful to two female officers, talking crazy. So the officer I was with, he said to the female officers, "What do you want? What do you want to do?" So she said, "Just talk to them, see what happens." Right? So she gives the officer the key to go into a mop closet outside of the dorm. It's attached to the building, but in its own little room in a mop closet outside. So you have to literally walk outside the dorm, and against the building, somewhere on the cut, is a door for a mop closet for the cleaning supplies. So we take them in there, and we start talking to them. And there's 3 inmates in there, and it's me and this officer. And this one inmate starts is like laughing, and I'm surprised that the officer I'm with is actually being nice.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Usually he's quick to punch someone, hit him on the radio or something. I have a crazy story about me and him. Tell that later. But so we go into the mop closet, and now I'm just getting pissed at this inmate. It doesn't realize how lucky he is right now that this officer that isn't doing nothing. So I slap him, but he wants to fight. So I'm like, all right. So I had the officer take the other 2 inmates out, and I give him my belt. I should have never have done that, because now that made it obvious. Because now I don't even have my belt on me.
Right.
You know, because it's
Could have come up
Velcro.
with a different story had you had the belt.
Thank you.
Right.
And I wasn't even going to put no paperwork on him, but
Right.
it got too out of hand, too quick. Too many people came and seen. Like I said, I never worked that dorm. I didn't know so many people come in and out of that dorm.
Right.
So I fight him one-on-one, and now my officer comes inside, and he's starting to talk. The inmate's starting to talk shit to him. So I'm telling everyone just to calm the fuck down because I'm not liking it now. Now it's just too much screaming. It's too close. I don't know the other two officers that well. So then the officer, he starts hitting him, beating the shit out of him with a broomstick. And he's still talking crazy. So then I take the broomstick from the officer and I get pissed and I just stop. I said, fuck it, we here. I'm already needing shit. I'm going in. And I just started beating the shit out of him with the broomstick and just beat the shit out of him. Too many people seen it.
Mm-hmm.
The female officer seen he was all fucked up, right? I didn't put paperwork on him. I could have saved my ass if I would have said he attacked me. I could just made up something, but I didn't want to do that to the kid. I thought he was, he seemed like a real dude. He was talking how he was living and he wanted to fight, like straight up, like nothing bitch about this kid at all,
All right.
So next thing I know, 2 weeks later, everyone's talking. Everyone's talking about what happened. I'm like, yo, how the fuck do people know? The officer got afraid and went to the OIG, the dude that does not like me, because I've been interviewed by him by many times, and I told him he would ask some stupid ass questions. I would clown him. Like I would tell him to go blow his father. And like I would be called in the warden's office the next day, like, what are you doing? Come on, like what are you doing? You're already doing something you're not supposed to. Now you're just insulting this guy, telling him to blow his father.
Right.
Calm down, But I just didn't like him, and I would just clown him. So now he has a hard on for me.
Right.
And he got the better of me. All these years of me clowning him, he won at the end of the day. I got to give it to him. So he contacts the FBI. I'm on no inmate contact, meaning that I can't work the compound no more. Right. I can't be around no inmates. So I'm in the mailroom.
Okay.
I'm in the mailroom.
Right.
Like wearing regular civilian clothes, just working the mailroom. A week goes by, 2 weeks go by, 3 weeks go by. And so was the officer who was with me. He's in the mailroom with me.
Right.
So
you don't know that he went to you don't know that he went to
the OIG. I didn't know that the OIG went to the FBI.
Okay.
No one knows.
Right.
You
don't know that he went to OIG?
No, he didn't. One of the female officers that we responded to, she went to the OIG.
Oh, I thought the other officer
No.
went. Okay.
No, she went. She seen what everything that happened, heard, talked to the inmates, everything. Okay. She went to a classification officer that I didn't even know, was brand new. And then she told her to go to the OIG. So now everyone fucking knows about this. Mm-hmm. I'm hearing about it and I'm denying it. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Right? So we're in the mailroom. A couple weeks go by. We're not called into the OIG office, which is weird because usually you're called in real quick.
Right.
He doesn't call me in this time. So now that gets me scared. Right. I'm like, oh, all the shit I did, this is what I'm going to get hemmed up for. So I actually end up leaving Florida Department of Corrections.
What, you quit?
No. I mean, yeah, I put my resignation in, but not because of that. I was like on no contact for like maybe 5 months. So I'm thinking it's just going to blow over. I haven't even been contacted. No one knows anything. We're good. So I moved to Detroit, Michigan, and I applied for a police officer spot and got it. I was in the academy. I was like the class president. It was like crazy. I kind of like had my same ways, but I was like kind of changing my ways, like realizing that kind of that last situation kind of scared me. So I'm like, let's kind of be by the book this time. Like,
mm-hmm.
Let's be by the book. Let's not run things the wrong way. Let's just go. And if someone, does something I'm not supposed to, like, I don't like or disrespects me, let's just be by the book. I'm going to go home at the end of the day. That stuff I did in Florida, we're leaving it behind. Let's use it instead of using, fighting muscle. Let's use your brain now. Brendan, let's use your brain, which is kind of hard for me to do sometimes, but let's use your brain. So I'm doing excellent. I'm excelling. Like I'm doing excellent. And then one day I get called by my corporal. Yo, someone's here to see you. I'm in my classroom.
Mm-hmm.
And I get called down and it's.
What did you think it was?
I don't know. I really didn't know. I'm like, who the hell is here to see me? Like, So I go down, and there's 4 dudes in suits and jackets because this is wintertime. And the one dude who's doing the talking, he reached out his hand, shook my hand, and said, "How you doing?" I'm like, "Hey, what's going on?" He's like, "I'm here with the Southern District of Florida, FBI, Special Agent King," something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, he said Special Agent from Southern District of Florida. I'm like,
You didn't think he was coming about the application you'd put in?
well, I was already in the academy
No,
at the
I
time.
know.
Right. I was like,
I did apply for the FBI. Do you guys usually come out?
I was like, "Oh, you guys are here to recruit me?"
Right.
You
Yeah,
know? But I don't know what he's there for. I know it's nothing good, but I don't know what situation because there's so many damn situations.
Right.
You know, I don't know what gang member maybe cooperated now and he's taking down everybody with him. So I don't know what he's there for.
Right.
So they start asking simple questions at first because this is where I shouldn't have even talked at all. I didn't give no information, even about myself, but I was just asking. I was answering some questions.
Mm-hmm.
They started off with, "Oh, how long you been with the Florida Department of Correction?" I said, "Well, I'm no longer with them. Obviously, I'm here in Detroit, working with trying to be a police officer over here." And they were just like meant like I was making little jokes, like kind of sarcastic jokes, and they weren't going with it. They meant business, you know. And then in the middle of asking questions, sometimes I have ADD, right? So I'm like, "Yo, how'd you get the gun?" He's asking me a serious question. I'm like, "Yo, how'd you get your gun here? You go on the plane with that?" And like they all looked at each other like, "What is this dude asking these stupid questions?"
Mm-hmm.
And they just ignored it and asked the question again. So I already knew I was kind of testing. I was like, I already knew they were here for business. So they started asking me, "How long were you in the Florida Department of Corrections? Do you know?" They were just asking me certain names that had nothing to do with the incident. Like even as a witness, they were just asking. I guess they interviewed to see what type of officer I was and stuff like that. And then they started saying, "So where were you?" I forgot the date, maybe March 24th that happened or something. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know where I was last night. Like, I can't answer where I was.
Mm-hmm.
And then they started saying, "Do you know?" And they named the inmate's name. I said, "Oh, I know a lot of inmates. That's a popular last name." And then they said, "Were you ever in Charlie dorm?" That's the dorm.
All
So
right.
I knew it. Now I know what they're here for. And then I was like, "Oh, I don't remember. I was all over the place." And then they were like, "So tell me what you did in Department of Correction." We see here you were in charge of STG, and you had a lot of accomplishments. I was like, "Yeah, I did." They were like, "How'd you get those accomplishments?" I was like, "Well, I guess you worked hard." They were like, "Oh, that's what you want to call it? No cheat codes?" The exact word, cheat codes. I'm like, "What's a cheat code? I came to work every day and I did what I had to do." They were like, "Okay, and so you don't know anything about that dorm." So now they left the STG conversation. They went back to the Charlie dorm.
Mm-hmm.
Said, "No." I said, "Hey, the question, am I a witness or a target here?" And they sarcastically like chuckled and was like, "You're a target, bro."
Right.
Like, "You're a target, bro." I was like, "All right, well, I really don't really want to speak anymore then. I can't really help you out if I don't remember anything about March 24th or about Charlie dorm. I really can't answer that." I was like, "But if you have, they're like, hey, we have some video footage. We know you don't want us to talk. You don't have to talk. Would you like to see some video footage?" I said, "What? So you can see my reaction?" I said, "No matter what, I'm going to laugh. So, like this is a joke." I said, "This is a fucking joke." And now I start getting a little fucking like pissed off. I'm like, "You fucking come here and I'm in the middle of this academy. You come here. Now, how am I going to explain to this?" I was like, I was like, "Well, who the fuck does this? You have nothing else better to do than come here and ask stupid ass questions." I was like, "I don't fucking know." I was like, "I don't want to see your fucking video," because they had a laptop. I was like, "Go back to fucking Florida." And they were like, "Well, we are, and here's our card." And I was like, "No, fuck your card." And I just like took the card and I threw it. Should have never done that. Should have never done that. And then they were like, "I suggest you contact a lawyer because we'll definitely be in touch."
Mm-hmm.
And next thing you know, I contact my lawyer and I had to go meet with them. And we didn't do no talking then. We just wanted to go see. Because my lawyer was like, "Hey, and there's no video footage in the mob closet, right? I was like, no. I was like, there's hardly any cameras anywhere, really, to be honest. It's just going into the dorm and inside the dorm. Nothing happened. And he was like, all right, so do they show you going? I was like, I don't know where the cameras are, but I don't think it even shows you going into the into the mob closet. It just shows you coming in the dorm and out of the dorm. That's it.
Right.
Which ended up being true. He's like, so I think they just shake. We got to go meet with them just to see if they're shaking the tree. They said like I said, I didn't do no talking. One of the OIG was in that meeting with the FBI and the prosecutor.
Mm-hmm.
And they said some things that I already knew I was fucked.
Well,
like
what?
Certain inmates that I let, get ran off the yard.
Right.
One time I had it, and this was brought up, and I knew about this, and I should have listened to the inmate, and I let it slide. One day I go into a dorm, and I'm talking to one of the heads of this organization, and he's telling me something about another organization, and I was in a cell. I thought it was his cell. He just thought that I searched the cell, and it's fine to go and talk to. So we're both thinking that the cell is okay. I'm thinking this is. It was a confusion. Well, there was a little ass inmate in the bed under the covers where it's flat, you can't see. Heard the whole thing of something that was going to go down. I can't remember exactly. It was definitely a beating of some sorts,
right.
of within the organization, and he heard the whole thing. This inmate, and he went singing about it. That I'm dirty. I'm letting things, and that's I guess how it started. Or helped the FBI and OIG think that I was running with these gangs when I really wasn't.
Right. And
that even came up in it.
Okay.
Like that conversation happened where, we have inmates that heard conversations that you're allowing certain things to happen and contraband to be brought in, and I'm bringing in contraband. That was an accusation of mine. I never once, I would admit it, I have nothing to hide.
Right.
I would never brought in contraband ever in my life. But you know how inmates are, it gets the one inmate. And
so it gets better and better.
Right,
the
so
story gets better and better every time somebody tells it.
So they knew a lot of things of organizations being ran off the yard. So they were trying to hit me with a conspiracy for multiple civil rights violations. But meanwhile, I'm like, I don't know how the hell they knew it, but they can't prove that. Right? Because they're going to take someone's word. Even if you hit me with the conspiracy of not actually doing it, you hit me with the conspiracy, you're going to take an inmate's word.
Right.
Now, if officers saying they heard it, then that's a different story. So I ended up ultimately copping a plea for one count of deprivation of civil rights for the mop closet incident.
So so after your lawyer and you sat down, you heard all the information. So they didn't have.
So they didn't give all our evidence.
Okay.
They didn't give all the evidence, but they would say certain things, and we would say, "Hey, can we have a couple minutes?" And he says, "What he's saying true?" I said, "Yeah." He's like, "How many times have you done certain things like this?" I said, "Dude, for years. I don't know."
Right.
So
then they come back in. They continue.
So
eventually you leave. Do you get indicted, or your lawyer just goes back and says, "Look, what are you going to indict him for?" And then they say, we're going to hit him for these 6 things. And he says, "Look, let's get it down to one count of." Did you waive the indictment, or did you get indicted?
So I waived the indictment because I was trying to say, no, let them indict me. I don't. He said, "Dude, that's a bad idea." Because he literally said to me, he said, "With all these indictments, I don't know the exact numbers, but you're facing anywhere, from 10 to 30 for each count of these charges." He said, "Can you do that time?" And I'm very real about myself.
Right.
I don't try to be a tough guy. I don't try to be, something that I'm not. I am not living like that.
Mm-hmm.
Bro, I'm not.
We've been federal. We've been much better than the state.
But even that, I'm not. I am not living like that. I'm not trying, like you said, I'm not trying to kill nobody.
Right.
I'm not trying to try to go do 10 years and come. No, no.
Yeah. I mean, it sucks, but it does suck.
It does. It's the worst feeling in the world. But the worst feeling in the world is not knowing your fate.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you going to get arrested or you're not going to get arrested? I don't know how people live like that for years. I wouldn't be able to be an emotional wreck.
Well, you know, my one of my co-defendants actually went and got a lawyer. Like she was never going to be indicted, nothing ever, and she went and got a lawyer because it had been so long that she was waiting to be indicted because there kept being newspaper articles talking about indicting her, all these people, and she knew she was one of the main people. Went and got a lawyer. Went down to the FBI office. Said, "I want to talk. I want to plead guilty. I want to tell you everything that happened." She ended up going to prison for 30. She got 30 months. She only went for like 18 or 20, you know, because they put her in a halfway house. But they were like, they would have never indicted. Everybody else who said, I didn't do anything, Matt did, they all told on me. But then they said, I wasn't aware of this. None of those people got indicted. She went down.
On her own.
Because she was like, look, the guilt was killing me. She goes, even if you told me right now, you know, if I knew then what I know now, she's like, I mean, the guilt was just, she's every day I was waiting, I was waiting to be arrested. She said, finally, she said, I just had to get it over with. I had to.
Right. No, some people like that, you know?
Listen,
that's hilarious, though.
You'll love this. You've never met anybody so ill-equipped to go to prison. This is an upper-class white chick. Once she was sentenced, you know, they had to let her, she got to turn herself in.
Right.
She actually she had like they told her, well, you show up, and it was like 3 months later. She called down to the camp to arrange a tour of the camp. And the guard was like, I'm sorry, what? And she's like, yeah, I just got 30 months. I'm going to be down there in about 3 months, but I'd like to go and kind of, you know where I'm going. Like, I'd like to know the layout and what it is to expect. So I was wondering if is there like a tour that I can take? And then we went, he said, no, sweetie, there's no tour.
That is hilarious.
And when she showed up 3 months later, the woman, like, she showed up and she said something happened. Then this woman comes out and comes over and says, hi, Allison. She was like, I'm the person you called about the tour. And she's like, how do you remember me? She goes, we've never had someone call here and ask for a tour. In 20-something years of being here, never has somebody called and said, I'd like to come take the tour. There's no fucking tour.
I wouldn't even know how to answer that if I was on the other end of the phone.
She said,
like, is it an Airbnb?
Anyway, yeah. So, but that chick ended up going to, I mean, she did, I guess eventually you're right. She did get the tour.
She got the tour. You got the tour, right?
Right.
Got the extended stay.
But yeah, you made the right move not letting him indict you because
it would have been worse.
Yeah, it would have been worse.
Yeah. But the whole time, I'm like, a part of me's like, man, what if they were just, I mean, you know, what if I beat it? But the simple fact is that a couple of them, he's like, it's not about you beating a couple of the charges. Yes, it's hearsay. It's, you know.
They're going to line up 12 guys.
That's what he said. He's like, you know, and if more than one keeps saying it, especially if an officer gets involved, he said, you're cooked. You're done. He's like, so let's just work out a deal for one, this incident. He says, they may want you to admit everything you did as an STG, which I ended up doing. Right. So that's why everything I talk about today, they already knew about. They didn't charge me with it. I'm not being charged with it. And I pleaded guilty to the one count and end up getting 24 months in federal prison.
It's not even worth unpacking.
I know. You're
still shitting Burger King by the time you time you get out.
Yeah, still dreaming of the outside.
Yeah, you're still dreaming about the outside.
You know, it was, you know, in a way I was kind of upset because I still didn't learn my lesson at that particular time.
Why? What do you mean? How much time did you do when you went in? How much time did you end up doing?
Like just under 24 months. Like.
Well, you said you got 24 months.
Yeah, but I just did a little less than that. Because
you didn't get halfway house?
No, they don't give halfway house to law enforcement, so they give you house arrest.
Oh, that sucks.
Right.
Oh, so you did like 19 months or something. Oh, you got like 18 months, 19 months.
So almost like that.
Oh, wait, no, wait, hold on. Yeah, you're right, 24 months. You only got off like maybe 3 or 4 months.
That's it.
So yeah, it's about 19, 20 months.
Right.
Okay. So what do you mean you didn't learn your lesson? What, you were just defiant or you just felt like you shouldn't have been?
Well, in a way, I felt like I shouldn't have been.
Right.
You know, because it was hard for me to admit things that I do wrong at the time.
Right.
Right. Growing up, I kind of quit. If things got hard, I was a quitter. I quit things. I would leave relationships. I would move on to the next relationship. I always lied. I wasn't faithful. And just in anything in life, I wasn't faithful. And I always moved around. That's why I went to Detroit. I just picked it up out of a hat. I swear to God, nothing that landed me in Detroit but me saying, I'm going to move to Detroit. Because I always moved. I always like to move around, even if it was just a different apartment. I can never be peaceful with one job. Like, besides the correction thing, like, just be peaceful with one thing. I was always trying to move and look for something. I was trying to mask whatever I had inside of me. I was trying to mask it and make excuses for myself.
Mhm.
Oh, this person, I'm not with this girl because she's a bitch, or I'm not with this girl anymore because of this.
It's
Or I'm
everybody
not.
else's fault.
It's everyone else's fault. And the whole time I'm running, I'm running fast, and I keep running, and I can never get away because you can't run away from yourself. It's
Right.
following you. And if every problem that I had followed me right away, and it was hard for me to admit anything. I was just always mask it as a defense mechanism to not deal with the problems or reality. And it took me a long time. I'm not going to lie. It took me a long time to really sit down and really look in the mirror and be like, yo, do you want to be a jerk off your life, or do you want to actually like account for something, like be a good person, actually care for people? Go and talk to these academies and tell them everything that you did to not glorify it, but to make sure that they don't walk in the same step as you. Ego and like just having an attitude and not caring for people, because compassion in life goes a long way.
Right.
You know.
Do you feel like when did you have that conversation? Were you in prison, or was it once you got out of prison?
No, once I got out of prison.
Oh,
I'm not gonna lie. Maybe not even a year of feeling like this. You know, I burned a lot of bridges in my life with a lot of people that were good to me, and I just had an epiphany one day, like,
yeah, maybe stop being a scumbag.
Let's
Maybe
stop.
It's not working for you,
right? And let's actually care for people. So be compassionate, because it really does go a long way. You know.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I by the time I figured that in prison, I was in prison. I still had like 7 or 8 years to go. It's like, no, I'm all better now. We can, but I still have 7 years of prison. I'm like, maybe not act like an asshole the rest of my fucking life.
You know, in one of your other podcasts, you said something that really like resonated with me, that really like hit me, right?
Okay.
Someone said, man, it was along the lines that it's an honor to be here and it's a privilege, and I look up to you, or something along the lines like that. And you said,
You're gonna get me all fucked up, bro.
yeah, you don't like that,
Yeah.
right? And you don't feel like you're worthy enough for that.
Right.
But that said a lot about you.
Mhm.
Like, I'm reading you, and I said that said a lot about him, and that's why I stayed in contact with you, talking until this day, because it's not just because you have a high following or you're popular, and it's not because you're successful. It's because I seen inside of you, I seen something. For you to say you don't feel worthy enough, it wasn't because you don't have self-confidence in yourself.
Right.
You're intelligent. You can do anything that you put your mind to. You know that. No one here has to tell you that. But that said a lot about you as a person. Very selfless thing for you to say. And that's why what attracted me to you so much is because by you saying those little words, really, like, I felt a connection with you, because sometimes I wish I don't feel worthy enough if I had that platform, or just in general, but it's because I wasn't really living that way. And that also helped me think, like, let me be worthy of that. Let me change my life to be worthy of that, where I can help people. I can give advice. I know what it's like to be down, and now I live my life where I was down. The only place I have to go is up. And if the elevators broke up, I'm going to take the stairs. Like, and I want to bring everyone with me up, and not just financially, just spiritually, emotionally, just be a kind-hearted person. But that really resonated with me when I heard you say that on your last couple podcasts ago, or whatever it was.
Yeah. Jason Brewer. Yeah. That was a podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was horrible. It was a horrible podcast, bro. He had me fucking just all in tears.
Yeah.
But yeah.
But it showed a different side of you. It showed a different side of you.
Yeah.
It showed that.
Well, it's easier to act like a prick all the time. You know what I'm saying? It's
Because you're
easier to
masking
be-
something.
Yeah,
You're coming off as a tough guy.
Yeah,
You know? Yeah.
yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm a tough guy, but yeah. Like, yeah. I know what you're saying.
You're
though.
trying to mask something. You
Yeah.
know?
So, that was agonizing. I would much rather laugh and joke around and have, you know what I'm saying, and
Me
make
too, but-
light of stuff.
Me
than-
too, but sometimes you need that to put your life into perspective.
Oh no, you definitely need it to put your life into to
You know?
be humble and appreciative
Yeah.
of everything you have. Because it's funny too, because when you have everything, you're less appreciative than when you have nothing.
I know.
Isn't that funny?
It's crazy.
funny.
You know, I read a book in prison, and it was a lady that was in Auschwitz, and she became a psychologist. Forgot her name, really bad name, but she says a man doesn't know his worth until he hits rock bottom.
Right.
You don't know what you're about until you hit rock bottom, and everyone's rock bottom is different.
Mhm.
But you really learn about yourself when you're at rock bottom.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely believe that.
It's interesting on how we all take all these experiences in, but you just got to learn from it. And you got to help the next person.
Right. So, how long have you been out of prison?
I got out in early 2020, end of 2019.
Okay. Oh, well, I mean, so what are you doing now, though?
To be honest, I haven't really done a whole much.
Right.
Like I said,
Well, what are you
I
doing
just-
for a living?
construction.
Okay.
So I'm okay on that aspect financially, but just finding myself, finding that inner peace, I was years of masking and denying, and I never really got to know who Brendan is.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm still trying right now to learn who I am right now as a person, honestly. So, and I know it's a process, but that's what I'm doing right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say the Kevin with the Suffering podcast. It was him and another guy. They'd both been in a police shooting separately,
Oh, wow.
and they both took early retirement because it affected them, right?
Okay.
And so they started this podcast to basically say, hey, there's officers out there that are suffering. That's what the Suffering podcast. And listen, they came here, laughed and joked, just had the best time. You can watch the whole thing, right? Like it's
Right.
Kevin, and Kevin's the more boisterous of the two. And then the other guy, he's got a shaved head, right? His Mike is almost positive it's Mike, if I got it wrong. I'm
Mike
sorry.
Dowd?
No, not Mike
no,
Dowd.
no.
No. But the other guy that was with him, he also had been in a shooting and a little more quiet, but still joking. They just had a whole little comedy routine going, talking about the Suffering podcast and about
Right.
how it's great. And, it was good. And talking about how many officers think about committing suicide. Now he was suicidal and he was suicidal. And then, they're all better now and everything's good. And now they're doing this podcast and it's just life affirming and everything's wonderful. And, I'm seeing his stuff and everything. And then one day I see something that it goes up and it just basically, it's like, rest in peace, and something. And I was like, who are they talking about rest in peace? And his buddy killed himself. He said the day before, talking, laughing, having a good old time. Went home, stuck a fucking gun in his mouth and blew his fucking brains out. Had plans. Next Tuesday, I'll be there on the podcast. Everything's great. Everything's wonderful.
That's terrible.
Boom. Yeah.
You never know what someone's going through.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate.
And you can, you listen, joked and laughed the whole time. One of my favorite clips is where they were on a podcast and they were talking, and he said Kevin said he gets asked all the time, like, you've been around all these guys, these murderers and serial killers and real criminals, and he said, they said, what's the scariest guy you've ever been around? And he said, Matt Cox. And he goes, what? And he said, listen, this is the kind of guy that shake your hands, be great with you, just a great guy, and just on a whim take every single thing you've got from you and walk away and not think twice. He said, I mean, it's terrifying. I remember when I left his podcast, he said, I checked my wallet and I said, that guy is absolutely fucking terrifying. And I mean, and then the other guy, Mike, jumps in. Because the problem is that he can do it. And I mean, I'm like, I'm showing this, I'm showing people, and I'm like, look, I'm sitting up, like, listen to this, and they're just like, they're like, oh, bro, that's horrible. I'm like, that's hilarious. Like, that's great. I made a TikTok of it. We put it on the fucking
That's
thing.
hilarious. Well, good thing for me, I didn't bring my wallet
No,
today.
It was funny.
So why would you do this job? Like if you're not making that much extra, you're not making extra money on the side, right?
No.
Yeah, it's like why would you put yourself, or why would anybody put themselves through all of this? You know what I mean? It just seems like you get so caught up in it, like I'm doing this guy, and I'm thinking to myself,
Where's the benefit?
why would I do this? You know what I mean? Like what you personally, what was your mindset? Did you ever think to yourself, like, why am I putting myself in these situations? Or were you caught up in it? You enjoyed it? Did you have an end goal?
I never really thought about like why am I putting myself into it? Because at the time, like I said, I was in the moment. I was enjoying it. I was, known, and I had all these like responsibilities, and some of it was a little crazy sometimes, and it was an adrenaline rush. The fact that, you can prevent a whole war from happening, or you can start a war from happening, or you can help the person, like just totally change their life, because not everything about me there was badass. I would sit and talk to inmates too and try to help them. Now, I'm not saying I try to help everyone, and that's the reason why I had this job. No, it was just a job, and I ended up just getting too into it. And then me being reckless and impulsive, I'm very impulsive. It was like I had no consequences. At the end, I did.
Until you did. Yeah.
Right, up until I did, but I was just free to do whatever the fuck I wanted. It was loved, Everyone loved it, including the higher ups, until the moment I was indicted. Then it's like, oh, he was a rogue. He was rogue, man. I couldn't control him.
Yeah. Thank God you guys got here.
Like, what? You would call me and tell me you want this dude up out of here, and he's up out of here.
Right.
And I would look from you with a smile, like I was just being used, realistically,
Yeah, I was gonna say it's to me. I didn't even think to ask that, because
it's an awesome question.
Because to me, it's like I can understand that, because at first, I could say, oh, I was committing fraud because of the money. Okay, right. So your first thing is, if I could just get like $100,000, then it's $500,000. Then it's $1 million, then it's 2, then it's 3. Then you just forget about that. And what you've just decided is that I enjoy doing what I'm doing, and everybody loves me. And it's a great feeling of power when you walk in the room and there's 7 or 8 guys go, hey, bro, but Matt, can I ask you a question about this real quick? You're the guy with the answers. You're the guy that can make things happen. You're the guy that's pulling all the strings. You feel invincible. You're emboldened. You've heard those guys, like the guy that says, the guy the other day that we were talking to, or we did the interview, and he said, every time I would, he's like, I started feeling just emboldened by the experience. So it's not the money, and I hate to say it's the power, it's that feeling of power, or maybe it's just that feeling of being important and loved by everybody. And, you're important. I'm the guy that can make everything happen. Right. So it's not about the money, especially once you get the money. They're just like, well, why are you doing it now? You've got the money.
Right.
Because I just love that feeling of being the guy that's calling all the shots.
It's filling a void of something we may not even be able to determine on what it is, but it's a void inside of us, maybe, that we keep just doing what we're doing because it's filling that void.
Yeah.
That's like you said. Right.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's my really only question.
Yeah.
You addressed the other one, because I was going to say, and I figured you would bring it full circle, because I read the comments on the Chad Marks interview. I was going to say, like, what would you say to your haters? Like, to the people that are saying, like, this guy's a piece of shit, like all this kind of stuff. But you kind of like, you bring it full circle with kind of like, your new perspective. So.
Right.
Yeah. And
were there there's a lot of haters?
Well, no, there really wasn't many, but sometimes I like to try to predict like what people might think.
Right. There was actually, I was actually very surprised. There was more people that actually supported it and was like, he's a real dude. He's telling the truth, than the haters. Now, for the haters, haters gonna hate. I can't make everybody like me. And if you feel that way, if you feel like I'm lying, these dudes do paperwork checks. Nothing I said, everything I said is authentic. And like, again, it's not to be a tough guy. I've been beat up plenty of times where inmates laughed at it, but they know I'll get there. And it's not about that. It's just a respect thing, and
Well, what I was going to say is the I think people that haven't been to prison, and I always love the guys who went to county jail for 6 months and think they've been to prison.
gonna
you
say
didn't
this.
you went to fucking county jail. You didn't go to prison.
Right.
It's completely different. But it's the rules that are set up just they can't keep things calm. You know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
you can't expect that the rules of the prison will keep things on an even keel, and you see the staff massaging the situation constantly,
Right.
and sometimes they'll be super strict, but then things get so erratic. It's like the tighter, you've heard that the tighter you squeeze, the more things slip through your
Absolutely.
finger.
Exactly.
And so it's better to, sometimes you have to massage things, but then some people, like I said, then that one chick is like, this guy's such a problem. I'm going to have this guy beat his ass, and then he'll learn his lesson and he'll shut up. That went wrong.
That went
so
wrong.
Then that was too much. You know what I'm saying? So it's that even.
It's trying to find the middle.
balance.
Right.
Right. So your balance went bad. You know what I'm saying?
My
So,
balance went bad. Yeah, it did. And I admit that, and I hold myself accountable for that.
well, look, listen. My wife has a whole thing. When I don't know if you know this, I'm sure you've heard this. I think it's everybody probably heard this. Did you ever hear about there was like 13 women or 8 women, I forget how many women, they sued the federal government because they were in the camp, the female camp at Coleman, and they were being by the guards.
Guards, right.
Right. Now, what's funny is that my wife was there. She knows every one of those girls.
Right.
And she's like, those girls would actually get into fist fights about who was going to date this guy. They considered them like, I'm dating this guy. This guy's bringing in food for me. Now, no matter what,
Right.
you can't have sex with an inmate, a female inmate, or an inmate in general. You can't have sex. Like that's it. It's they can't consent. It's
You're in charge of
statutory
them. It's because
Right,
you're
right.
a caretaker. So you're
But of course, these girls are making it sound like he cornered me. He raped me, and of course, my wife's like, I can tell you right now, she would go in the room, they would close the door, I would be in the other room. They would be like, hey, we're going to be in here for, like, that's the kind of thing that's happening. Like, the girls are walking around, they're
Right.
talking about who's fucking so-and-so, who's doing, like, this is not the situation that was happening, right? Like, there are so many things that happen in prison that are being massaged, just like the thing where we had the guy that came on and that there's riots. They let him out, there's a riot. They lock everybody down for 3 months. They let them out for 2 weeks. Boom, there's a riot. They lock them up for 3 months. They let them out. Boom, there's a riot. At some point, which is unconventional, and you would be, every booklet out there would tell you this is, do not do this. At some point, the warden goes out and says, this shot caller, that shot caller, who's respected in these groups? And he pulls them all out and has discussions and starts going from cell to negotiate a peace so he can take the facility off of lockdown.
Right.
Like I can't lock these guys up forever.
which is unorthodox.
Right. So eventually he does, and guess what? These guys are out for 18 months. Maybe there's a stabbing here and there,
Of course.
but it's funny, like some facilities run, it's those are the facilities that tend to run smoother because you've got somebody there keeping the balance. The problem is it's probably the fear is that eventually
It's going to get out of hand.
you get us out of hand and you get friendly with the guys, and then boom, you have a problem. But you had 18 months where nobody got stabbed.
Right. 100%. And for the prison to run, you need, like you said before, policing themselves. So if they know that they're safe, where if I act too crazy, I can say whatever I want. Even though I know I'm afraid of you, I'm going to say whatever I want because I know that the COs are going to stop it or something's going to happen. But the simple fact is that if they know, he ain't going to stop it, maybe I'm not going to talk to you crazy like that. And that's just one example. Or, like bringing in contraband or stealing or extorting or whatever the case is. You're not safe because this dude's going to let the other dude bump.
Right.
And now are you going to be as tough now that you know that the officer's going to let you fight? That happens a lot in confinement when they're in disciplinary confinement, they'll be in confinement. 2 dudes will be arguing. You know, they're both talking like they're fucking Mike Tyson. You know, and then the next thing you know, the officers will be like, "All right, well, you guys were annoying me for the past 2 days with this. I'm putting you in the cell together, or for rec, you guys are going to share the same rec cage."
Right.
And sometimes the inmates are willing to do it. Sometimes now they're not so tough.
Yeah.
Now they don't want to talk so much no more.
There was a guy, White Viking. Remember the White Viking? He had the shaved head.
Yeah, I'm trying to think what it was. Viking mindset.
Oh, Viking mindset. I said White Viking. I
Never
think
heard
they
of
called him the Viking or something like that. He had a thing where he was about that life. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that whole for years. But then he still got years to go, and he got to a point where he's like, I'm done. I don't want to be about. The problem is every facility I went to now, the guys are like, oh, this dude, he's like that, bro. He's the guy. He's gonna take care of business. He's like, ah, shit. He's like, my rep started following me, and then guys are coming to me saying, you got to take care of this. You got to this. He's like, I'm at the point where I'm like, I don't want to take care of it.
Right.
He gets into a fight one. He's like, and then one time these guys come to him and they come in the cell and he said, so we're fighting. He's like, I'm trying to get out of the fight, but we fight. Because we're fighting. He said, listen, fighting for a minute or two is a long fucking fight. 2 minutes of a fight is exhausting. It's forever. And he's sitting there. Remember, he said he's had the guy in the headlock or something, and the guy was like, or was it Brewer? Where he said, "I'm sitting there, and we're sitting there." He said, "All I could think about was, where are the guards? What's taking them so long?" He's like, "I'm fighting, hoping that just the guards will show up because he's like, it's been forever." And he's like, and I know they've got to be coming. He's like finally they ended up coming. But he said, like, you understand? He said, the whole time I'm sitting there thinking, please fucking you guys show up. Please show up. Please show up.
I mean, it is a long time to fight. It's exhausting. It's dangerous. You're fighting in a cell. Everything is concrete or metal.
Yeah.
The metal toilet, the metal bunk. Dude, there's things that I think about now that I did. It's like, yo, I could have just killed, or I could have got killed. Like, what was I thinking? Was it worth it?
Well, everybody's heard that story where the guy gets 3 or 4 years and
into a fight.
Puts him to work. Guy ends up, they get into a fight. Guy falls, hits his fucking head in the toilet, and dies. Right. Now the kid's got a 15-year sentence. Like, you just turned your 4-year sentence into 15 years, or
it's
20 years or whatever.
It's all nonsense.
Right. Or some guy that, hey, go put in some work, just stab the guy up. He stabs him in the wrong spot. The guy fucking dies. And now you got 20 fucking years.
For nonsense.
Just for absolute stupidity.
Yeah. And I fell into it.
Right.
I fell into it.
Do you think being a CO and going to prison, do you think that worked against you? Do you think it helped you because you knew how it worked? Or did you get pushback from the other inmates? Like, how do you think that changed your prison experience?
How was the prison thing? What did you tell people going in? Well, you probably went to a low, right?
Right.
Okay.
But I actually went to Milan in Michigan.
Okay.
And the politics are kind of heavy for a low side,
Right.
as I was told. But it's still a low at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm not saying that there are things. I saw as much violence in the low. I saw some of the bloodiest fights I've ever seen in a low than when I was in the medium.
Right.
So
it's
I'm
still,
not saying there's not fights.
Right. But you're talking about politics.
Right.
Like,
right.
are they heavy or not heavy? Like a medium or
how much more danger? Because there's having an issue in the medium's a lot more dangerous.
Because they're willing to go further.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
No, they knew when I went in there. Staff knew when I walked into Milan, right? When I walked into Milan, there was a couple of dudes walking in too, out of Oklahoma City Transit Center.
So they already knew.
They already knew. They said to me, Mr. FDOC, we've been waiting for you.
Ah, fuck.
Right? That's the guard. And he's a country. This dude was country. He looked all geeky and shit, right? Like this, almost excited to see me. But I didn't know how to play it. Like, is he being a dick?
Right.
Or is he like, I don't know how how to take it. But he was like, we've been waiting for you. I was like, oh, great, thanks. And I ended up going into processing by myself, which I'm like, yo, you're making this fucking hot, bro.
Mm-hmm.
And then the warden was there waiting for me. And SIS officers, right? And they were trying to say, oh, you're going to be in this dorm and this gang there. I said, I don't care. I really don't want to talk to you. This is like, I don't know if you're trying to help me or not, but this is not helping me. I'm going to go in there and assess the scene myself, and I'm comfortable but me obtaining my own information rather than you telling me, that's just gonna make me like, I don't know. Just I don't want to know anything. And one of the officers was real cool. He's like, dude, I don't know. He's like, why I gotta send you into this dorm, but this is the worst dorm in here. He's like, this is not good.
They're trying to give you a hard time?
Because I made it, and I don't know if this is true or not, but the warden basically said, well, don't be coming over here beating up my inmates or something along the lines like that. And he was wearing like a polka dot bow tie. And I said, well, anyone that can walk around this prison with a bow tie, I think I like my chances here.
Right. Yeah.
I don't know if that made it, that comment like made, him be like, well, fuck, I'm throwing to the wolves type shit.
Right.
And he was like, don't be telling anyone what you're in here for. But I already knew.
They're going to find out. Yeah.
Dude, I'm not lying
Yeah.
because I already did time at FDC down in Miami, right? And everyone already knew too. And I already know I went through Oklahoma City Transit Center with some dudes from Miami. So they might have been talking to the other people.
Mhm.
Now I'm on the bus to Milan now, so I wasn't going to lie.
Yeah. Well, and the inmates are going to get your name. Somebody's going to run your name. There's got to be multiple
They already knew when I walked up
yeah.
in there.
Newspaper articles about you are going to come up.
Oh, yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
And they already knew, and they basically what they didn't really care. Now, I'm not going to say they 100% trusted me, but I wouldn't even give them that opportunity, right? I had a seat in the TV room. Most dudes didn't even have a seat in the TV room. You got to sit in the hallway.
Mhm.
It's just.
I'm shocked that you didn't end up in Coleman, because in Coleman.
Don't forget, I was living in Michigan at the time I got arrested.
So you were indicted out of Michigan?
No, remember I left Florida,
Yeah,
moved to Michigan, and then Southern District of Florida. I got indicted out of Florida, but I was living in Michigan.
Okay, so it's closer to your home. is what you're
Exactly.
saying.
I was
Okay.
no longer living in
Okay,
Florida.
your
anymore.
residency wasn't Florida. Okay,
Right.
now I understand. Yeah, I was gonna say, because at the low in Coleman, like literally, I was locked up with a guy named Junior, which was a dirty cop from Atlanta,
Mhm.
who killed somebody.
Did he have a hard time?
No.
See,
No,
I
he
seen a
didn't.
bunch of cops too. They didn't have a hard time.
I was locked up with 4 homicide detectives. No, not homicide detectives. I'm sorry. Police detectives that were in charge of drug cases. I don't know why I said
Narcotics.
Yeah, narcotics. I was arrested with one guy who was a DEA. I'd been in transit with a cop. It was the same thing when he got to Oklahoma City, because we were together. We got there. We went into the room that we talked about.
Bullpen,
That same type of thing. When he got there, as we were getting there, he told me, he said, they're going to pull me out of here. And because I'd been locked up in the facility with him so I was in transit. A couple days, I knew everybody was a cop. And then we're in the van together. Now we're on the plane together. We're basically together the whole time. And I know he's a cop. And then when we got there, he said, "Fuck!" You could see them out, the lieutenants and everybody outside the thing. They're through the window. You could see them all go together, talking. There was all of them getting together, talking. And he's like, "Fuck," because they're gonna pull me out of here. I was like, "Why?" He said, "They always pull me." He said, he did like a year in the shoe already because they didn't want him mixed in with population. So he's like, he had to file paperwork to get taken out of the shoe and put in general pop while he's waiting to be sentenced. He'd already been sentenced.
What? So at the detention center, basically, they put him in the shoe for that long?
Yeah, the whole time. He had to file paper. His lawyer had to file paperwork to have him put into general pop. Anyway, and sure enough, if they didn't come over, open the door and call out his name, and he was like, "Fuck!" He went out there, talked to him for 5 minutes, and came back. And they were like, "Listen, we don't feel comfortable with you." He's like, "I don't care." Like he's like, "I've filed paperwork. I'll file it again." He's like, "I'm this. You cannot keep me in the fucking shoe the whole time. I don't give a shit." And I don't even know why they were so harsh with him. I think it was just because of his transit, and you don't really know who's in transit.
Exactly.
Right. And so anyway, they did let him back in, and eventually, I don't know what prison he went to, but I'm sure he went to a low somewhere. But yeah, there was a bunch of cops that had been, that were at the low. And I don't feel like any of them, cops can handle themselves. You know what I'm saying? Correctional officers can handle themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like they're like, "Oh, you're in danger." Like, yeah, not really. Because
I don't know. You're not. There
No.
was a bunch of guys. There was some Boston cops. There was,
right.
Illinois cops in there.
And listen, and the press is not coming. Like
No.
when you get these fucking articles on these guys,
The press is not kind.
it's fucking
Yeah, and the
horrific.
comments for the press is like, one guy's like, lock him up and throw away the key.
Right.
I'm like, well, I'm out now, bitch. Fuck
Yeah.
you for
I
saying
mean,
that.
Yeah.
You know, it's hilarious though. You gotta laugh at them. But no, I wasn't in. I didn't feel like any because of that situation. You
Right.
know what I mean? Not at all. When I first got arrested, I was at the federal detention center. It was, I forgot what holiday it was. They put me. The captain wasn't there, and it's actually his call or not. If you go to general population or not. So they pulled me in through processing and put me into protective custody for 3 or 4 days. The captain came. He said, "Yo, what's up? What you want to do?" I said, "I can't do this. I tell you that.
Yeah.
Like, I never been in a cell before. This is the first time I'm in a cell. I'm having crazy freaking like dreams that the freaking fire alarm breaks and the pipe burst and I'm drowning in here because like I'm having crazy illusions. Like, get me the fuck out of here." He was like, "Yeah, but you're in general population." I'm okay.
Yeah.
So he ended up putting me in general population, and it was actually a high profile floor with some interesting people that were there, and it was half of that and then half of psych. So in the eastern region for the BOP, they only have like 2, I believe, mental health evaluation centers. One of them being more up north, I believe, and the other one down in
Butler?
in
Is Butler one of them?
maybe Butler, but
That's
I know
medical.
for a psychological evaluations before you're actually sentenced,
Mhm.
they will send you, and one of them is in Florida. So we had like half of the people from all over coming for a psychological evaluation, and then half of it was like high profile. There was like a rapper, there was a serial killer, guy who was killing people down in Florida with a samurai sword. There was a cartel dude from Venezuela.
Right.
And now we're starting to see the effects of Venezuelans. People didn't ever heard of how dangerous they were years ago. I already seen kind of what it was with him being locked up there.
Is Venezuela where they just locked up everybody? Is that the one where they built a prison that holds like fucking 10,000 or 100,000 people or something?
No, I don't think that's Venezuela.
Okay.
But Venezuela basically released half of their prison because they know the borders were open and they all came here.
Okay, yeah, that's not.
Yeah.
That's the Venezuela
Yeah,
thing.
those dudes don't
We're
play.
gonna release you,
Yeah.
but you got to start walking.
Right, those dudes do not play.
Yeah.
They do not play. But it was interesting because in Puerto Rico, their detention center is very small. So if they have an overflow of inmates,
Mhm.
they have to send them, and they send them to Florida.
Yeah.
So there was one dude, I totally forgot his name. I think they called him Yogi, Puerto Rican dude. He was a Nieta. And he went in for like maybe 10 years, but then ended up killing a correction officer, being part of a correction. And he had to go back to Puerto Rico for a court case. So he was at the ADX,
Mhm.
went to Puerto Rico, then was going back to the ADX, but he's staying at the detention center now in Florida because I guess Puerto Rico was full. Killed a correctional lieutenant. I'm sitting in here with him. We're working out. I don't know what he did. He doesn't know what I did. Eventually we start talking. We were so close. We would eat together every night. He didn't have much money. I would give him. But we told each other what we were in for. And we just was like, how life is ironic. He literally killed a lieutenant,
Mhm.
correction officer lieutenant. And I'm sitting here like fucking best friends. Isn't that how, like, full circle? It's crazy. It was crazy.
How'd that conversation go? So what did you? I killed a lieutenant. Hey, I used to be a lieutenant. Like,
And I don't know how he wasn't in the shoe when he had to go back to the ADX, but it was so fun. When I found out he killed the lieutenant, he didn't tell me originally. And he knew I was in for, but he'd acted like we would work out and would eat. And then one of my friends was like, this is crazy. He's like, he killed a lieutenant. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, I'm like, get the fuck out of here. He's like, yeah. So we start talking and we just like, we're laughing about it. We were laughing about how ironic the situation is, like how weird it is. It was funny.
one of the things you're doing now is you started a YouTube channel, right?
Yeah. Brenegade Show.
What is it?
Brenegade Show.
Brenegade. Is that it? That's the whole thing? Brenegade?
Brenegade.
Or just Brenegade Show?
Brenegade Show, yeah.
Okay. And so you're going to put up an intro, and then you're going to put up some videos, and so by the time this comes out, you'll have several videos up. You'll be getting into it.
Absolutely.
What are you going to focus on?
Like a broad view, but where I'm not stepping on any toes and being different, just saying my side of the story on, uh, uh, I guess you can say, an ex-dirty officer's view on
Right.
what I would do to certain inmates, on how I feel on what I would do in certain situations. Some common myths that some people have about corrections. You can try to break that. Get into both sides of the life, on how there's politics on both sides. That you only hear about the inmate politics and what the inmates would do if this inmate came in here. Before you get to the inmates, you got to come to the officer side.
Right.
Give some hacks for officers and inmates on certain things, like cell extraction, on how to beat a cell extraction, or
They're good. You can't do-
yeah, you know what? Yeah, that's probably not a good
I
idea.
was gonna say, you do put baby lotion on you. You know what I'm saying?
Like certain things that I
they'll
would
do
do.
that. They'll strip down and put baby lotion and shit on them. So
But
that
another way to beat it as an officer,
as an officer,
is spray the fucking toilet with the water, right? Because like when they spray it, they use the water in the toilet to clean their face.
Yeah.
But if you spray the water with the pepper spray, now they start doing it. Now they're wiping their face with the pepper spray.
Pepper spray. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you gonna interview like former inmates?
Former inmates and current correction officers, see about policy and how they run, how they work. Maybe some of their identities will be, changed a little bit. I don't know if it's against their policy, but I already have a couple things in works, and just holding people accountable. It's okay to mess up. We all start from the bottom and work back up.
Hey, you guys, I appreciate you watching. Do me a favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell so you get notified of videos like this. Also, please go to Brendan's YouTube channel. We're going to put the link in the description. So click on that, go to his YouTube. He's going to have videos up telling his story, interviewing people. So I would appreciate if you guys would go there and follow him. Also, please consider joining our Patreon. It's $10 a month. We're going to have a full podcast of this interview on Patreon. It's over 3 hours. It's filled with a bunch of really interesting stuff that didn't make the cut here. Please check it out. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Oh yeah, it's only $10 a month. See ya.